views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's Monday, right? It feels like a Monday.
It's Monday.
I'm having a Monday,
Yeah,
Dom.
no doubt. Happy Monday, Crudy. Good to see you as always, my friend.
Well, glad to be here in the Brady Street Studios. No particular good reason.
Well, we're traveling this week, man.
We are. I got to
I
come
know.
back. We're traveling through Milwaukee to Houston, and we're leaving on September 11th.
Coming back on Friday the 13th.
Weren't those the same days that Donald Trump was going to meet with the Taliban at Camp David?
Oh, no. I know he was planning to meet, but apparently that has fallen through. You know, diplomacy at its best.
You know what he'll say? Eventually, Donald Trump, he'll say, I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah. I don't think you can quite believe him. He always said, we're watching him a little bit today. What does he say? I don't know. We'll see what happens. This guy, he says it himself. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll see what happens. This is we'll see what happens presidency.
Like he can't even control his own schedule. Dom, here's a little piece I found at the Post. Want to lead this week here today. Trump claims about things he had nothing to do with often don't hold up.
Shocking. This is the lead? I thought this was obvious.
Philip Bump at the Washington Post, a spate of unflattering stories about President Trump's administration have been published over the past week. Some are obviously a function of Trump, like the days-long brawl over his claims that Alabama would be affected by Hurricane Dorian.
I always want to tell the truth. When I can, I tell the truth.
I'm going to see if I can remember this one by memory, but our friend Dave Weigel tweeted out something to the effect of, a child born the day the Trump-Alabama spat started is now entering high school as a senior or something of that effect. You know, like it had been an extraordinarily long period of time.
Trump has a hell of a time letting something go. And now what? He's going to manipulate this agency in charge of letting us know if there are disasters coming our way?
Dom, not only will he manipulate like the NOAA, you know, the National Oceanographic
Atmospheric Administration.
AA.
Not your AA, the other AA.
Entirely different AA. If he would, you know, basically, I mean, when you as the president can dictate the weather, or at least think that that's within the realm of possibility, and anyone that would contradict you, well, you're in big trouble, right?
Yes.
And we are to believe that Donald Trump had nothing to do
with Sharpie Gate?
Well, not only that, but Air Force planes refueling at his, golf course or at the private airport right next to his golf course?
Scotland.
Turnberry.
Some more traffic these days.
He claims he had nothing to do with that. Although these planes apparently routing between the United States and Kuwait, the most logical landing place for these Air Force planes, Scotland, at Donald Trump's golf course.
Of course.
And then, of course, the crews, you know, very tired from the long flight.
He also grab a room, go to bed,
yes.
shower.
But he had nothing to do with that. Just like when what? When the vice president went and stayed like hours, like nearly, was it, how many miles away was
180 miles. I mean, he had to fly by
nearly
helicopter.
200 miles away.
It was on the other side. Sorry about that. It was on the other side of the island.
Well, so what? Little flight, as long as you can stick some money in the Trump coffers. We'll get to that. Let's get back to the Philip Bump piece. Barely got started. Barely scratching the surface. Where was I?
Like two sentences in. We wouldn't get that far.
Okay. Like the days-long brawl, some say years, feels like years, over his claims that Alabama would be affected by Hurricane Dorian. Others are murkier. To what extent were Trump or the White House involved in Vice President Pence's decision to stay at the Trump Organization property in Ireland? How did the Air Force end up using Trump private company facilities in Scotland during flights from Kuwait to Alaska? Trump has a pat response to both of these questions, Dom. He had nothing to do with either. I don't know what you mean. Nothing to do with me, all caps. Trump tweeted about Air Force stopovers. Similarly, he claimed he had nothing to do with Pence's decision to stay at the Trump property in Doonbeg. Pence and the Air Force just reached their own decisions, Trump says.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Without his input. Though Pence's team at first suggested Trump had suggested the vice president stay. That formulation, I had nothing to do with it.
Wasn't me.
Isn't that the Sergeant Schultz, or is that more like a Shaggy?
I think it's more Shaggy.
Turns out to be a common one for Trump, and a review of the times he has deployed it as a defense since he began his presidential campaign suggests that he has often used it to dismiss things that he very much had something to do with. Let's just go over a couple of these dates now. I'm going to need your help on this. February 18th of 2016, history of using eminent domain. During the 2016 Republican primary, Senator Ted Cruz hit Trump for using eminent domain as a developer. Cruz's campaign created an ad focused on the issue. There's even one going up now in Nevada. He's got something about land, that I'm for taking back the land. I have nothing to do with it. He will make up stories Trump denied at a CNN town hall. But not only did Trump use eminent domain as a developer, the specific example in Cruz's ad of a widow who fought back was well documented.
I've got nothing to do with it, Crudy. Again, March 25th, 2016. Allegations about Cruz in the National Enquirer. During the campaign, the National Enquirer ran a story alleging multiple extramarital affairs by Cruz, allegations he strongly denied. People soon noted Trump's cozy relationship with the tabloid, prompting him to deny any link on Twitter. And here's what he tweeted. Lion Ted Cruz.
Can you do the voice?
No. Lion Ted Cruz is now trying to convince people that his problems with the National Enquirer were caused by me. I had nothing, all caps, to do with the story. As the Washington Post reported in June of last year, though, the tabloid would often send Trump's team copies of stories that it planned to run, including ones about Cruz. Well, there's no evidence that Trump's team was involved in either generating or proving the story about the affairs.
Well, there's also the example of March 25th, 2016, Trump's relationship with the Enquirer. At another point, Trump denied having a relationship with the tabloid. I have nothing to do with the National Enquirer. I'll do the voice. And unlike Lion Ted Cruz, I do not surround myself with political hacks and henchmen and then pretend total innocence.
Now, isn't that exactly what he does?
You are spot on for a Monday, Dom.
Wow.
This was untrue. The National Enquirer's parent company, for example, admitted to federal investigators that it had helped bury stories alleging affairs between Trump and two women working with Trump's then attorney fixer, Michael Cohen. Let's not forget that's what the Dems are hoping to have public hearings about in the oh-so-tantalizing future, Dom. Stormy and the Playmate, McDougal.
Among many others, I'm sure. Continuing on the things that Donald Trump has had nothing to do with, Crudy, here's a Wisconsin take on May 9th of 2016, sympathy to ousting Paul Ryan. After former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin endorsed Trump, she attacked then Speaker Paul Ryan from Wisconsin and embraced Ryan's Republican primary challenger, Paul Nealon. Asked about it, Trump denied being involved in wanting to see Ryan ousted. I have nothing to do with that. Later in the campaign, though, Trump tweeted praise for Nealon.
I remember that. Do you recall? It was a question whether or not Trump would get behind Paul Nealon, avowed white supremacist, anti-Semite. Been on this show a couple of times.
That was before we knew.
Before we knew. We met him on Capital City Sunday. But we were at that rally. We were at a Trump rally in Wisconsin, and it was still a question that day. Nealon was at the rally, And it was a question of who will Trump endorse?
Did we have him on that day at the rally?
We were there. No.
We did not. Okay.
No, we might have. And I believe he actually had been let in the rally, but then found out Trump was going to endorse Paul Ryan. It was a late endorsement, right? And then Nealon, I believe, called into the From the Trump rally show to push back and say, I didn't need Trump anyways. How'd that work out, Paul?
Again, Trump did tweet praise for Nealon when Ryan announced his retirement this year. Trump bashed him. Nealon was banned from Twitter after anti-Semitic comments. And here's just one more before we get to the break, because there's lots and lots and lots of things that Trump says he has nothing to do with. July 27th, 2016, the relationship with Russia. Trump has repeatedly insisted that he had nothing to do with Russia and Russia's efforts to interfere in the 2016 election. One of the first times was during a news conference in July of 2016, focused specifically on alleged business dealings.
Every year, I have a routine audit. I'm under audit. When the audit's complete, I'll release them. But zero, I will tell you right now, zero, I have nothing to do with Russia. Yes.
Question mark?
Question mark.
There's still more.
I have nothing to do with Russia, John. How many times do I have to say it? Are you a smart man? I have nothing to do with Putin.
As it turns out, Trump had been trying to finalize a development project in Moscow through intermediaries until June of 2016.
Wasn't me.
Cohen had even spoken with a representative of Russian President Vladimir Putin team about the project.
Now, I've heard you conversing with Ron Johnson on this very same topic, Dom.
Yeah.
Veins are popping, dropping your pins, as you often do, giving him some latitude to not answer the question.
Can you believe it?
And now I see that Ron Johnson is still banned from Russia despite his prior affinity.
What happened?
And travels in Russia, of course, spent the 4th of July there.
Fruity, I can tell you with Ron Johnson's problems getting back into Russia, I had nothing to do with it.
This song, this one's going out to you, Trump.
And you, Joe.
And you, Joe. That's exactly where I was going next. Wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
Come back with us, Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Join us on the phones. They're open and toll-free. 844-967-2789. It's Monday. Back to the Devil's Advocates.
I give myself awards all the time. And then I announce I've just received an award. And there's nothing deceptive about it because I actually did, but I gave it to myself.
Was either a certified genius or an authentic wacko.
I'm an extremely stable genius.
Wile E. Coyote, super genius.
I am the chosen one.
Nobody with the Jesus.
Hey, Milwaukee, you now get more Earl Ingram in the morning. Tune into the Earl Ingram Show now from 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays and noon to 2 Saturdays on WRD 1510 a.m. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Milwaukee County is facing transit route cuts and workers are being asked for concessions. Yet, a national economist reviewed Milwaukee County's financials. It showed they over-budget transit expenses by $16.5 million in 2018 alone and almost $40 million since 2015. The workers never saw that money, but were squeezed for concessions. I'm Michael Bouts, Vice President of Amalgamated Transit Union Local 998. I was in those negotiations. County Executive Chris Abley claims a budget crisis, asking us to give in while the CAFR report shows we ran under budget for years. Abley inflated the cost, diverted the taxpayers' money, while imposing real cuts to vital service. Enough is enough. Call Chris Abley at 414-278-4338 and ask him, if not to improve transit service, where did that money go?
This message paid for by ATU Local 998. Madison Liquidators has officially moved into a bigger, nicer showroom off Pleasant View Road in Middleton, and they are proud to announce they have expanded to provide educational and healthcare institutional furnishings. They have great new offerings of quality new office furnishings from industry leaders like Groupe Lacoste and Via Seating. And you can see the expanded and extensive inventory of used furniture online at MadisonLiquidators.com. Or you can call Kelly and have her help you make a plan for your new space. Start today at MadisonLiquidators.com and tell them you heard them on Talk 92.7 FM.
Five9, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy five9s.com.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
To the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter. You can hit us up on the phone, talk or text toll free, 844-967-2789.
So the moral of that story from the Washington Post, Tom, is if Donald Trump says, it wasn't me, it absolutely was him.
Right.
That's like a tell.
It's like opposite man.
He often projects. Dom, a little more. The original story, and this one a little surprising. Now, I want to point out, I did go to the kickoff of Fighting Bob Fest on Friday night.
Nice.
I had a good time.
All right.
Saw the LT, the lieutenant governor. And the lieutenant governor said, hey, Earl texted you. Earl's his guy. Not our Earl, but his Earl. Mandela Barnes' Earl. And I said, oh, yeah, but it was so unexpected and random, I didn't even respond to it. I said, was that actually intended for me? I thought it was a butt text. And he said, oh, no. Coming on the show. I am thinking, yeah, I've heard that before.
All right. When?
Either September 18th or 19th.
All right.
Are the days we're targeting. And understanding that they named the dates, I didn't throw out the dates. I just said, not this week. Busy. Could have been today or tomorrow. Will Durr's coming in studio tomorrow, Dom.
Our comedian pal. He's a funny cat. Yeah,
it's going to be in Milwaukee.
Happy hour?
Here.
What time? 5 o'clock?
Yeah. Come on, man. You know I'm putting Will Durst in the happy hour.
Excellent.
Lightening it up in here.
Love it.
Also scheduling, I'm working on Tom Pelzowitz. He'll come in next week when we get back from Houston. And for people wondering, I think we might do a fill-in host on Wednesday, not exactly
when we
sure.
travel in a couple of days.
I have a clear sense of who I'm intending to ask, but in case it's not you, I don't want to disappoint the great audience, but someone will fill in, I think, on Wednesday, doing live radio.
And Palsowitz running to take, Sensenbrenner's former seat. And what about Walker Jr., man? You got any reach out to him?
The wanker?
Yeah. The
Wanker Jr.?
Yeah, the son.
Well, first of all, he's got to declare. But I did note, and, let's break briefly into an episode of What's Wanker Tweeting?
While we're on it.
In this case, Wanker Sr. Bear with me. I got to get to the Wankinator's Twitter stream. Here I am. He is wanking out. Tweeting out about his son again. Scott Bauer tweeted, Wisconsin Dems fundraising off at Scott Walker's son at Matt Walker, Wisconsin, considering a run for Congress. They don't send out messages like this when other Republicans talk about running. Maybe they would. It's the 5th CD Dems. It's that district, right?
Yeah.
Well, Scotty Wanker tweets out, what's the Wanker tweeting? Let me tell you. Maybe they're just afraid of a millennial and small business owner who can articulate the benefits of freedom over the failures of socialism. I'm not clear that you can, Scott Walker. Freedom!
Who is this? This is Matt, right?
Matt, the small business owning Walker. Now, I did note, I think James Rowan, or one of the bloggers here in the state of Wisconsin, pointed out young Matt Walker owns a social media company of some sort, digital marketing.
Now, was that what he was doing for some Republican down south on some campaign?
So, but now he's a small business owner.
Okay.
Now, created the expensive secondary layer of expense when he consults for other people's campaigns, right?
Right.
Probably will consult for his own campaign eventually. But you think the young wanker with his social media acumen and the big father name, you think he'd have more than 94 followers on Twitter? And I didn't find that independently, but if you look him up, it was under 100.
Matt Walker, well, we might as well wrap up this portion of the conversation on his Facebook page, addressed it, bounces around some of his reasons, and he concludes as thus. Regardless of whether I launch a campaign in this race, our conservative movement needs a counterweight to the growing far-left stumble towards democratic, in quotes, socialism. My rising generation has an opportunity to catapult our country forward or be the net that holds us back. We must move forward. With that in mind, I will spend time praying about this important decision and discussing it with my family, friends, neighbors, and colleagues as I explore this potential campaign. Thank you. Matt Walker addressing this on let's look, a couple of days ago, September 7th.
You know what would not be effective? Asking his Twitter followers what they think.
No.
It's not a real big sample. Let's just see. I just, just for kicks and giggles, I just Googled millennials polled on socialism. Young Americans are embracing socialism. Generation Z has a more positive view of the word socialism than previous generations, and along with millennials, are more likely to embrace socialistic policies and principles rather than past generations, according to new Harris polling. The government should provide universal health care. 73% support. That sounds a little socialistic to me. But not that Matt Walker. Sure, he's been on Dad's health care the whole time.
And Dad's health care provided by the taxpayers of the state of Wisconsin.
But you poor people, man, go pee in a cup. It's not a hammock. It's a trampoline. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, your phone calls. Where are you at, audience? Are you listening? I hope we're not talking to the void. 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
Too fast, too furious.
How does this relate to our discussion of the uses of irony?
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
Freedom.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on WRRD 1510 AM. Weekdays, hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's The Forum with Sherwin Hughes from 9 till noon. From noon till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Jocasta Zamaripa, Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Listen online at newstalk1510am.com.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Pobletti, and our report for Wednesday, August 28th is brought to you by Spectrum. The GOP co-chairs of the Joint Finance Committee accused Dem Attorney General Josh Kaul of seeking to undermine a lame duck session law that requires legislative approval to settle a lawsuit by demanding lawmakers sign confidentiality agreements before sharing details on the action. Kaul, meanwhile, told the committee yesterday, failing to sign the non-disclosure agreements and giving him the authority by Friday to move ahead in settlement talks put Wisconsin at risk of losing out on a multi-state lawsuit begun under his GOP predecessor. The blow-up at JFC, which took the rare, if not unprecedented step of meeting in closed session, was the first test of the requirements Republicans approved in the December extraordinary session, giving them oversight of the AG just before Kaul took office. It also came against the backdrop of GOP legislative leaders asking the state Supreme Court to step in and clarify the law that they approved in December, accusing Kaul of ignoring it. One of the GOP attorneys, who's making $500 an hour representing Republicans in the suit, observed at least part of yesterday's proceedings, which stretched for more than 3 hours. Additionally, while the GOP JFC co-chairs labeled Call's request to sign a confidentiality agreement a, quote, non-starter after yesterday's hearing, they wrote in a July letter that they were open to ensuring details of proposed settlements submitted for their review would remain secret. They also suggested their own version of a possible non-disclosure agreement after receiving one from Call, according to a letter the AG sent committee members yesterday and other correspondence obtained by WisPolitics.com. But Joint Finance Chair John Nygren told WisPolitics.com in a statement Republicans on the committee don't believe they should have to sign non-disclosure agreements. That's because their research since the July exchange shows attorneys general typically haven't asked the Gov's office to do so. Finally, a Senate panel has unanimously signed off on the Department of Children and Families Secretary Emily Edmundson's nomination. Edmundson is the 9th member of Governor Tony Evers' cabinet to win bipartisan backing in a committee vote, though none have received confirmation vote on the Senate floor. For WisPolitics Midday, sponsored by Spectrum, I'm Pat Popeletty.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit wispolitics.com.
The National Black Leadership Alliance asks 2 questions. What would it take to close the racial divide in America? And what does racial justice look like in America today? Starting on Monday, September 9th through Friday, September 13th on the Earl Ingram Show, we will be joined by dozens of great guests from Reverend Al Sharpton to Tamika Mallory. Join us for this important and topical conversation on the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. on WRRD 1510 a.m. and Talk 92.7 FM.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Yeah, we know you're out there, Trumpsters. Real quick, our pal Justin, friend of this show, he's the chair of the 5th CD. Apparently, he appreciated us taking note of the fact that he had used the potential candidacy of Matt Walker as a fundraising solicitation. And he told me, I had no idea a reporter picked up my email and Walker quoted it. So you just made my day.
All right.
Well done, Justin. I thought it was, why not? Why not fundraise on any anti-Walker sentiment that still out there in the world?
May be. Sure,
and I suspect there's a lot. I think that one could be a real messy.
What do you think of
for the Republicans?
The thought process that, because Matt Walker he's a younger man, he's 25, right? But they need someone
millennial man.
They need someone like him. Well, he's Generation Z, right? He's younger than millennial.
I don't even know.
So,
it doesn't matter after Gen.
But
what are we? X?
This is all about we're the greatest generation, of course.
That's what I hear. Some people say.
The X, Gen X, yeah, we're Gen X. The fact that he is a young man of 25, and they need to have people like him as a counterbalance to, of course, this is all AOC. I mean, the old man Scott Walker has a thing on AOC.
They all do, man.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, you know what it is.
What, they're like
a smart, good-looking woman that's socially media savvy, unlike apparently Matt Walker.
Come on,
she smacks those Republican men around, and so many.
Do they like the spankings?
Are driven by misogyny.
I just don't understand it. This is not.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
This is not. A lot of people have these thoughts, and I would say Bernie Sanders, for example.
Naughty thoughts. No,
you know what I mean. No, I'm talking about the Republicans, but AOC's philosophy, she's not the only one that holds those views. And I would say some older white men, perhaps a guy like Bernie Sanders also would hold.
No, but she drives him nuts.
She drives him freaking nuts.
Get back in the bar and it's funny because Republicans...
you're just a bartender. Hey, I'm a bartender. Come on.
Well,
what has that got to do with it?
There's nothing wrong with being a bartender. She's probably a good one. Does more than serve PBR.
And a shot. I can pour a mean shot.
Boilermaker. But, it's misogyny, Dom. And it's the fact that an intelligent younger woman who is charismatic and good-looking, she's pretty, drives them nuts, Dom. They're all nuts over AOC. And, of course, power, real power, no offense, but rookie congresswomen don't have a ton of power. There's 435 of them. Not rookie women congresswomen. There's just 4 that apparently drive the Republicans bonkers,
Absolutely crazy.
Because they don't know their place.
I mean, is it that?
Yes.
You think it's that basic? It's just that basic.
Yeah, I think so in the greater sense. And the fact that they're intimidated by any woman that is probably smarter than most of them. I mean, she is. She's a bright woman. She's smart. And they're not. They're so often not. They so often, I mean, remember the whole Scott Walker going after her because, grandma and $7 and the government, grandma taking $7 off the top.
Right.
And what was her response to him? That's not how the tax codes work, Scott Walker. So if this kid made $10 million and $10,
right? Marginal tax rates.
Then the government would take 7 of those $10. But they don't take the first 7 of 10. They take no money. And it's your grandma. So shut up, Scott Walker, right?
Right.
She gave him the back of her hand. And he was demoralized. And now he's running.
But he still uses it. I mean, that didn't stop Scott Walker from using the 70% tax rate thing without, of course, identifying that would be obviously on much higher numbers of dollars than, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
Because his ideas are not defensible unless he lies or misconstrues them. They're not good ideas. Her ideas are straightforward. You may not agree with them, but Scott Walker has to lie about them, right?
I used to run track.
And when Scott Walker realizes that he got bitch slapped by AOC, then he sends young Matt out there. You take a crack. I'm a little intimidated. Matt, you have got to play W to my HW, and you got to go out there and get that Saddam Hussein, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And you got to,
because I couldn't do it, so you got to clean it up.
Clean up unfinished business.
844-967-2789. It just seems a little strange that it's always AOC all the time at the Walker household.
Buddy, if you were married to Tonette, you'd be talking about and thinking about AOC as well.
Bill from Oconomowoc, we're thinking about you. What do you got for us today, Bill?
Good afternoon. As far as Matt Walker running, and he was coached by his dad to pray. Now, is he going to pray for Russia to give NRA some money, and then Matt can go on a fact-finding tour to Russia, and they'll cut him a nice check?
Praying for dollars, Bill.
I hear his old man has got an in with this Maria Butina chick.
He knows people.
That's right, Natasha, as I like to call her. Hey, on something else, I got to ask you, both of you, because you guys are very well-versed in politics. I was reading a while back, not that many weeks ago, I tried to find where we really turned the corner in this partisan politics. And here's what I came up with. Newt Gingrich manifesto says no more being nice. Now we're going to literally fight them, not, actually, but figuratively.
Right.
And it really, if you follow politics, and then along comes Citizens United and all these other things that now channel money into these, quote, institutes or think tanks, which is nothing more than laundering money for the Republican Party. That's how we created this atmosphere. But one thing that can beat them every time, we have to talk about uniting the country, not dividing the country. And if Putin ever had a useful idiot, boy, he's in office right now in Washington, because he's very accomplished at arming the people, scaring the people, make sure they got enough drugs, and now he's running the country. But in the long run, the American public longs for a leader that unites, not divides. Our old buddy Scotty, when he was caught on, when he didn't realize it was a microphone, divide and conquer. Well, he said it right. I got to say something. That's the best thing he ever said, because he talked about how they function.
Right, very accurate, Bill.
You have to divide. And what we have to keep focusing on, we are the United States, not the divided states, the United States. And I really believe if we use Michelle Obama as an example, rise above it. I argue with these people all the time. I don't swear. I don't call them names. I don't care what they call me. I'm going to stay above it. But I'll just say your frustration is built on your lack of satisfaction with the way things are going. You have the power to change it, I tell them. It's up to you.
Bill,
you want to keep dividing?
I prefer to turn the other cheek and then kick him in the nards.
Well, no, I have thought about that many times, especially with a steel-toe boot that I still own.
All right, Bill, we appreciate it.
You only have two cheeks.
844-967-2789. I do. I'm with Bill on the sentiment, man. No doubt about it. I'm not clear, the name calling that we occasionally engage in.
Mostly you.
Me, come on, man. I don't know if that really helps, but some people, Scott Walker, for me, is one of them. It's just too damn bad as far as I'm concerned. Now, generally speaking, yes, I had a 30th class reunion, Bill. And I got to meet some old friends that I haven't seen in a very long time. And yeah, some of them were Trumpers and they knew I wasn't. So we had a good laugh and had a lot of fun. Didn't get too deep into the weeds on it, but I certainly think you can have different political thoughts and still be able to engage with people who don't think like you. That's how it should be. We kind of built this government around that, and
that's broken.
It is broken. But is it our responsibility to try to fix it in any little way we can?
Sure, maybe you and I do our best. At least, we used to be politically a little farther apart. You've kind of grown my way a little bit. I would point out, in response to Bill's sentiment, I think it was W that broke this country, or at least the quote-unquote election thereof in the Supreme Court, and how that all transpired, I think was tremendously damaging to our government. And I would say, despite that, George W. Bush had some of the highest approval ratings of any president after 9/11. Democrats did rally behind George W. Bush, and I think Republicans often forget that. They don't ever give us credit for saying, you know what, we do put country first when it's appropriate for us to do so. And then what did Bush do? Gave us a tax cut, told us to go shopping, and lied us into a couple of wars. And he squandered any goodwill there might have been, right? Gave it all back, and when it was completely exposed, there was no justification for the Iraq War. So the loss of life and treasury, hell, Donald Trump's meeting with the Taliban this week. They're still out there. We didn't accomplish anything. And it broke our country, or it continued to break our country.
Well, Halliburton made a lot of money. Accomplished what? What are you thinking of? Because we spent a lot of money, and a lot of people got paid for that war to continue.
I read an article over the weekend. We are incapable. We as humans are incapable of self-governance. And what has effectively happened, sort of a depressing piece, I got to tell you. Not a lot of optimism.
Incapable of self-governance.
You know what else?
What do you think we're doing?
Well, but for how long? For how much longer? And the question being asked, and this was a clinical study, this was a very erudite piece, but it was effectively the elites. The elites and how they're demonized, these elites, these damn people that go to college and learn stuff and, the doctorate types. Well, the elites used to be sort of the side rails of society. And the elites used to guide those that were less capable of guiding themselves. And I would point out, there's only one branch of the government that is directly elected by the people. Well, it's the House, right? Even the presidency, that's through the electoral process, that arcane thing. That's not a direct election. Maybe it should be, but it's not. But more democracy is not necessarily a good thing. When you look, there was only 100 years ago, 12 democracies in the world. And then it grew exponentially up to 80 something. And now it's contracting again. And there's a lot of sentiment. A lot of people are going to these populist right things. Because if you don't quite understand what's going wrong in the world, and there's not smart people, or you don't trust, be it the press, be it the elites, if you don't trust the people that in society used to have the role of educating the masses, but if they no longer garner our respect, and I'm talking about what Fox News has done and what Republicans have done, they've undermined the gatekeepers. There is no fact. There's just, our version of the facts now. And what happens is when that happens, you can't govern yourself because people are looking for easy solutions now. They don't want to think too hard. They just want an easy solution. Tell me who to blame. Well, the brown people, the immigrant people. There's all kinds of people out there to blame, and Donald Trump's a master at it. And he gives them someone to resent. But when your whole society and your whole electoral outcome is predicated on dividing and conquering and telling your supporters who to resent in society, well, it doesn't leave a lot of room, for kumbaya.
And togetherness. But again, I still refer back to the 60s and the civil rights movement and Nixon and Watergate and Vietnam. And we went through
certainly been troubling times.
I would say more troubling.
We didn't have social media then.
Than now.
There were elites. There were gatekeepers. There was the press. There were people that said, this guy is a little too fringe. There were people that pushed back on Joe McCarthy. There were televised trials, and Joe McCarthy, have no dignity, or I forget. And actually, I think that was a lawyer for the State Department. But whatever. My point is that the Walter Cronkites of the world kind of kept us in our lanes to a certain degree. Kind of told us, hey, when the politicians go too far, we're not going to win the Vietnam War. And when Cronkite said it, the war was effectively over. People believed it, and we don't have any figures in our society anymore, present company excluded.
Of course.
There is no source that both the right and the left trust. There's very little that all partisan parties look at and say, well, we all trust Walter Cronkite, don't we? Who do we trust? There's no overlap. There's no Venn diagram. There's no one in the middle that we all trust anymore. And there used to be in society, and that is what has changed.
I don't know. Now again, I understand that you reference this from a study, and I haven't had the pleasure of reading that. But I still think that when you look back, people have the stars in their eyes looking towards the past. I just think that it's always been difficult. Every single day, it's difficult. Everyone's got to make their choices
on
who they trust
of Riley
and who they believe and what kind of person they're going to be every single moment of every single day. And I don't think that there's any more people trying to take advantage of others than there ever has been in the history of the world. I don't think that. I just think this is what it is. And maybe certainly the tech and the mediums and how the messages are communicated have changed over the years. No doubt. We don't have just 3 major networks now. You can get anything you want everywhere you got. I'd rather have that than a limitation that all we get is Cronkite's version. That's always been a battle now.
Yeah, but Cronkite told the truth. Fox News doesn't tell the truth. Social media, you believe Twitter?
Does Shep Smith tell the truth?
I tell the truth.
Does Rachel Maddow tell the truth?
Most of the time.
You know what I mean? See, this is what I'm saying.
Well, that's just it. There is no universally trusted figures that tell us that guy's gone too far. Come back with us. I'll tell you when Dom goes too far.
I never go too far.
844-967-2789. More Devil's Advocates.
Just remember, what you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening.
Anybody can take Washington.
Wait till next year. Come on, Natasha.
Freedom.
Wanker.
The National Black Leadership Alliance asks 2 questions. What would it take to close the racial divide in America? And what does racial justice look like in America today? Starting on Monday, September 9th through Friday, September 13th on the Earl Ingram Show, we will be joined by dozens of great guests from Reverend Al Sharpton to Tamika Mallory. Join us for this important and topical conversation on the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. on WRRD 1510 a.m. and Talk 92.7 FM.
Milwaukee County is facing transit route cuts and workers are being asked for concessions. Yet, a national economist reviewed Milwaukee County's financials. It showed they over-budget transit expenses by $16.5 million in 2018 alone and almost $40 million since 2015. The workers never saw that money, but were squeezed for concessions. I'm Michael Bouts, Vice President of Amalgamated Transit Union Local 998. I was in those negotiations. County Executive Chris Abley claims a budget crisis, asking us to give in while the CAFR report shows we ran under budget for years. Abley inflated the cost, diverted the taxpayers' money while imposing real cuts to vital service. Enough is enough. Call Chris Abley at 414-278-4338 and ask him, if not to improve transit service, where did that money go?
This message paid for by ATU Local 998.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can hit us up on the phones, talk or text, toll free, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I was looking for that article. I wish I could find it. If I do, I will share it with the audience, at least in brief. But I did see an intriguing headline. Got it right the third time.
Better late than never.
For all our righty-whitey listeners, normally down the dial, but tune it in for just a moment. Great news! Sarah Palin's single again.
Oh, Scott Walker.
Well, he's already got his sights set on the one he can't have.
AOC.
Yeah. Little quick story from the Daily Beast. Little infotainment for the audience, Tom. Sarah Palin's husband files for divorce. According to the Daily Beast, at least where I found it. Sarah Palin's husband has filed for divorce. The Anchorage Daily News reports on Friday, Todd Palin filed for divorce from the former vice presidential candidate in Anchorage Superior Court and cited an incompatibility of temperament because she's crazy and he doesn't think he is.
I'm not clear.
An incompatibility of temperament between the parties such that they find it impossible to live together as husband and wife. As the reason for the couple's split after 31 years, the divorce filing reportedly also asked for joint legal custody of Trig Palin, their only minor son. Todd Palin's attorney in the divorce, Kimberly Colbo, asked the court to designate the divorce as confidential as it proceeds. I'm not loving how this article is written. Sarah Palin shot to fame after being selected as John McCain's running mate during the 8th presidential run and was elected governor of Alaska in 2006. She resigned as governor in 2009, but has remained in the public eye through books, speaking engagements, and being featured in a one-season reality show. She's single, fellas.
Divorce is a terrible thing to go through, and good luck to everybody.
Her daughter's had a few breakups.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the one that
was doing I'm not up on the Palin family drama, dude.
I think
I gotta
it was
be
Bristol.
Honest. Yeah, okay.
Bristol married the soldier boy who basically had to either join the army or go to jail. And then, I forget, man, but she was the big advocate for non-premarital sex, despite the fact she already had a kid. And then she got pregnant again. Gets real trailer trashy from there.
So
not that I'm judging.
No, but if you're an advocate for not having premarital sex and then you are yourself.
She was like the national spokesperson for
get pregnant by having premarital sex. I just not clear that you're in the right position.
Yeah, maybe I'll Google her once.
844-967-2789. Wisco, Paul, you're up. Happy Monday, Paul. What do you got for us?
Hey, happy Monday to you, Devils. Thanks for taking my call.
if I have one wish today, it would be, Walker, just please go away. I'm just sick of hearing your name. I don't want to hear about your kids. I don't want to hear anything that you have to do politically. Nothing. You ram the state in the ground. The infrastructure is terrible. And one last thing I'd like to say to Scott. Tony's poll numbers are already higher than yours ever were. Just please go away. Thanks for listening to me, Devils, and you have a good day.
Thank you, Paul.
Tony Evers, a plus 20 favorable, unfavorable. I believe he was at 54 favorable, 34 unfavorable.
Is that like the Marquette poll that we last week?
Last week. Yeah. Plus 20. Flanker was never more than like plus 6.
It was a tough time for the former Governor Walker. Yeah.
Now, one thing, the former gubernator, the award-winning transparency of the Open Records website that Scott Walker created, it was like the only thing in the Sunshine Foundation, Bill Leaders Group. They actually acknowledged Walker for creating that.
Okay.
It's being reported today. Tony Evers taking that one down.
Come on. Why?
I don't know.
We should ask him.
I'll admit, although I'm not going to tell you what I asked about. I did do an open records request of the Evers administration.
Oh, okay. And you didn't do it through this website?
No, actually, I think I used the portal.
Okay.
Now, I'm not clear if that's the same portal where the public could see what sort of open records requests were being requested and being produced. But I did ask, and I did receive in nearly record time. I mean, relative to the last open records request, took 14 months for the Walker administration to respond. I got something back from Evers in under 2 weeks.
A responsive government. I like that idea.
Right up until he takes the website down.
Well, we need some
Bill
more
Leaders
information.
is not going to like that.
We should ask Bill as well.
Well, there's an article.
Let's get there.
We could get there.
There's so much to get to. But I want to get. We got to get to some of this Trump though, because you talk about having trust in our institutions and our leaders and the press and all these things. Well, there are people that are pushing back on Trump. There are investigations going on. Does anybody else believe
partisan
him?
Witch hunts?
Is that what it is?
Well, that's what the right will claim. And since there is no Walter Cronkite, well, who are you going to believe? Lawrence O'Donnell? Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, 844-967-2789.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page. Hey, Milwaukee, you now get more Earl Ingram in the morning. Tune into the Earl Ingram Show now from 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays and noon to 2 Saturdays on WRRD 1510 a.m. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hey guys, I'm Maggie Dawn, your lady lawyer, legal eagle, and sensei of economics. Tune into my show, Dawn of the Resistance, live Thursdays and Fridays from 6 to 7 on WRRD 1510 AM. Always streaming live at newstalk1510am.com.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Talks are dead. Mystery resolved. I'm Mike Moss. President Trump says when the Taliban launched an attack in Kabul that killed an American serviceman and 11 others, they blew their chance at meeting him for peace talks.
They're dead as far as I'm concerned. And we've hit the Taliban harder in the last 4 days than they've been hit in over 10 years.
He says he still hopes to wind down U.S. involvement in Afghanistan. The acting mayor of Baltimore says it wasn't a bomb. It wasn't even the 1,000 gallons of gasoline police suspected. It turns out the suspicious van found in a parking garage was part of a diesel fuel theft operation, according to Police Colonel Richard Worley.
The devices that we thought could have possibly been hazardous were just used to basically steal diesel fuel. So the van was loaded with diesel fuel, and it had some cables running to it that made it look like that it was probably going to be something more serious.
The suspicious van caused a more than 5-hour evacuation of a busy section of the city's inner harbor. Coast Guard Captain John Reed says 3 of 4 South Korean crewmen trapped in an overturned cargo ship off the coast of Georgia have now been rescued.
3 of the 4 survivors aboard the Golden Ray have been extracted from the space. The 4th survivor has been located, and it's an ongoing operation to try to get him out.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer is urging Mitch McConnell to bring a bipartisan background check measure for a vote on the floor.
Legislation is the quickest way to make a law that will save American lives in terms of what's both effective and can pass.
House Speaker Pelosi says if the bill doesn't pass the Senate, there will be, quote, hell to pay for the Senate leader and the president. Southern California Athletic Director Lynn Swan has resigned after 3 years on the job. On Wall Street, the Dow up 38, the S&P down a fraction. I'm Mike Moss.
Naomi Croth here. My family has owned and operated Bachman Construction since 1954. As an all-in-one design-build commercial contractor, Bachman Construction works with project owners from beginning to end of each project to unify responsibility and streamline communication. We provide more opportunities for owner participation and allow for better cost control in the design and construction of a project. For projects big and small, Bachman Construction is your design-build choice for collaborative construction services.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker for Busted Pencils Radio. Educated educators talking education. Tuesday nights at 7, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee.
Cancer can be costly, and many patients and their families have taken to crowdfunding sites like GoFundMe to raise money. But a new study finds most only reach about a quarter of their goal.
The research letter in the medical journal JAMA Internal Medicine studied more than 1,000 GoFundMe pages that were asking for help in treating the 20 most common cancers. Copays, out-of-pocket drug costs, and medical travel expenses were reported to be the most pressing needs. On average, the campaigns set a goal of about $20,000, but only managed to raise about $5,000. Those affected the most by the costs were people without insurance who were seeking higher donation amounts. Medical fundraisers make up 1 in 3 GoFundMe campaigns. I'm John Stolness.
Consumer borrowing surged in July at its fastest pace since late 2017, driven by a big jump in credit card use. The consumer borrowing increased by $23 million in July. I'm Mike Moss.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Go back to where they came from, help those people come back and show us how to do it. That was the full quote.
They didn't come from anywhere. They were here, dude. Are you employed, Chris?
I am.
Do you have an HR department?
Yes, I do. I'm a union machinist.
Oh, do you work with minorities?
I do.
If you walked up to one of your coworkers who was a minority, you told them to go back to where they came from, would HR have a conversation with you about that, do you think?
It depends on the person, really. I mean, some people are...
If somebody complained to HR about what you said, do you think they would have a conversation with you about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. But why? Why would they pull you off of your job to discuss this with you, and what do you think their beef would be?
Because they're trying to protect the corporation from lawsuits.
Lawsuit for what?
Discrimination, racism.
So if your coworkers, if you say it to your coworker, it could be described as discrimination or racism. But when the president says it to the world, it's not racist?
No. Yikes.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A Milwaukee police officer shot a man who was in close proximity to a suspect police were attempting to arrest early Sunday near 26th and Auer Avenue. The man who was shot is 41 years old and from Milwaukee. His injury is serious, but he is expected to survive. The shooting occurred about 1:30 a.m. at a residence in the 3200 block of North 26th Street. And a raise in wages has eased staffing shortages at some prisons in Wisconsin, but the situation has grown even worse at the institutions where wages were not increased. And forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a chance of rain. Lows in the upper 60s. Tomorrow, partly sunny with highs in the mid-80s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN, Wisconsin's political talk.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, we might get to a few more of the headlines. I think we should. Now, Politico, I believe, first reported Friday night, and we talked about in hour number 1. If Trump says he had nothing to do with it, of course, he knows all about it. He had everything to do with it. Politico reported that apparently there were U.S. Air Force airplanes that were stopping to use a private airfield just outside a Trump resort. And apparently there's some connection there because Trump needs that airfield to be successful because it props up his remote golf course. And this story seemed so implausible, but, you know, nothing really seems implausible anymore, Dom. It all seems within the realm of possibility. But as is being reported by the Raw story, it's actually a really big number of stopovers, Dom. It's not like an isolated incident. It's starting to turn into a substantial amount of money. Let me read briefly. The U.S. Air Force is ordering a worldwide probe after outrage over a huge increase in refueling stops at an airport near a Trump property and an overnight stay at the Trump luxury resort by military personnel. The public has been focused recently on news an Air Force jet was directed to refill at Prestwick, a small commercial airport in Scotland, with crews ordered to stay at Trump's Turnberry resort. Now Politico reports this odd instance is not the first. In September 2018, on its way back to the U.S. from Qatar, a unit of the Maine Air National Guard landed at Prestwick Airport, the airport's closest to Trump's luxury waterfront resort. The crew and their passengers then spent the night at the hotel, according to one person who was present in an Instagram post and a voucher detailing the cruise itinerary reviewed by Politico. Politico and the New York Times reveal a huge escalation in the use of that small airport. Stopovers at the Scotland airport have tripled since 2015, and overnight stays in the area are up 5-fold. The Defense Department has been using Prestwick Airport since 2015, when it had 95 stopovers. But that number rose to 145 by 2016, 180 in 2017, 257 last year, and so far this year, Dom, it's what, September? 259.
Wow.
Numbers going up, including 220 overnight stays at the Trump resort. Since October of 2017, records show 917 purchases at the airport worth a total of $17.2 million. Starts adding up to a little chump change. The Air Force said it will look at guidelines in its investigation with the understanding that the U.S. service members lodging at higher-end accommodations, even if within government rates, might be allowable but not advisable. You think? Oh, one other interesting note here at the Raw story, Dom. The Air Force investigation comes 5 months after another startling revelation. Liberty University, run by key evangelical Trump supporter Jerry Falwell Jr., has sold more than $1 million in jet fuel to the Pentagon since Trump's inauguration. Liberty University, apparently in the jet fuel business.
I did not know that.
Nor I.
Wow.
There's some other Jerry Falwell Jr. Sex scandal stuff out there today, Don.
Oh, God, really?
But he won't be punished. You know, all sins to be forgiven.
Only in the afterlife. Politico goes on to report, Crudy, again, this from Air Force Brigadier General Ed Thomas, that even when USAF air crews follow all directives and guidance, we must still be considerate of perceptions of not being good stewards of taxpayer funds that might be created through the appearance of air crew staying at such locations.
Do you think there's an appearance of impropriety going on here, Dom?
I mean, it's real simple. You can compare what they spent in the area, over the last couple of years to when Trump became president. And if it looks like it, apparently it is going up, then you got to wonder why.
Why wouldn't they go to the U.S. base in Scotland? I mean, is that ever addressed? Isn't there a U.S. base in Scotland?
In the original political reporting from September 6th, they said on previous trips to the Middle East, the C-17 had landed at U.S. air bases, such as Ramstein Air Force Air Base in Germany or Naval Station Rota in Spain to refuel, according to one person familiar with the trips. Occasionally, the plane stopped at the Azores and once in Italy, both of which had U.S. military sites, the person added. So there are other options.
Well, if there is a U.S. military base, that's part of the reason why we have U.S. military bases around the world, right? Airport fueling depots for our military airplanes. Why would we break that practice?
So Trump can cash some extra checks, and we can pay a little bit more for fuel on one of these airstrips versus getting it at the Air Force Base. So he's basically, pilfering off the top? And that's, what the hell? I mean, if this is the case, and these are, again, this is a concern that people have had with this administration. Is he going to direct his administration to prop up his properties? And I think the short answer, at least as far as we can tell right now, is yes.
Dom, I've got a headline from Newsweek. This one published way back August 20th of this year. Donald Trump has spent nearly a third of his presidency visiting his business properties at taxpayer expense. Talking about the president himself, spent a third of his presidency at his properties at you and I.
Now, didn't he say he was going to be working for us so hard he would never take vacation? Hell, he'd be in the White House working for us.
No time to golf.
No time to golf.
President Donald Trump has spent...
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf. Believe me.
Thank you, Brian.
President Donald Trump has spent nearly a third of his presidency, that's 1 out of every 3 days, visiting his business properties at taxpayer expense, according to a new report by the government watchdog group Citizens for Ethics and Responsibility in Washington. Crew has found over 2,300 conflicts of interest resulting from Trump's decision not to divest ownership of his global business empire upon entering office. The group used social media, news reports, Freedom of Information Act responses, and other sources of information to tally these instances. The nonprofit added that there are likely more conflicts of interest than the ones they have been able to identify.
You can guarantee it.
Some are hidden. Their words, I'm quoting, this corrupt relationship between the Trump organization and the White House leaves the American public in the dark about whether presidential decisions and policies are being made in the best interest of the country or in the best interest of the president's bottom line. I think it's the latter, Dom, according to Noah Bookbender, Crew's executive director. A little bit more here. According to Watchdog, Trump has visited his properties 362 times at taxpayer expense since his inauguration in 2017. So far in 2019, the president has made 81 trips to his business properties. And that's before he hosts the G7 at Geraldo.
Well, right.
The number of days where President Trump has spent time at a Trump-branded property account for almost a third of the days since he has been president. Crew also found that 111 foreign officials have made over 130 trips to Trump properties. The visits raise eyebrows as to how much money foreign governments have spent at businesses and properties related to the Trump organization. Another quote. Not only has President Trump continued to use his presidency to try and enrich himself, he has also granted foreign governments and special interest the opportunity to purchase access to his administration by patronizing his businesses.
Crudy, over the past 2.5 years, Trump Organization properties have raked in nearly $6 million from political groups. So far in 2019, political organizations have spent over $1 million by holding events at Trump properties. Before Trump ran for president, his business empire never made more than $100,000 from political groups in a year, according to Crew. Of course, Trump has faced multiple accusations of violating the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution for mixing official duties with the Trump Organization. In June, the Washington Post report found that his private business received $1.6 million from Republicans and various federal agencies. The Post surmised that the amount of money Trump has made due to visiting and campaigning at his business properties is likely much more than $1.6 million, but official government spending records are only available through the first half of 2017. So I'm sure the implication is that it's probably gone up since then. 844-967-2789. Let's get some callers in here. Mark from the SAC, you're up. Happy Monday, Mark. What do you got?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, my question is there adequate security at that airport that they're stopping at there just south of it or north of his golf course there?
Hell, it's so rural, Mark. Who else would possibly go there? Hence the need for a private airport.
It seems to me that, that it could likely be more subject to attack than, actually a secure air base, that a U.S. air base that we share with NATO. I mean, that it just is ridiculous that we're doing this.
That we're talking about this?
We even have to talk about this is ridiculous enough. But I mean, that's a question I haven't heard yet. I posted it out there. Is that what about security at this airport? What about the security for our service troops and the 30 miles they have to drive to the lodgings that they have to stay at? At this, they have to plop down and fill up at this air base and this airport until it probably costs 2-3 times as much as it would cost at a actual U.S. airport.
I'm sure the retail price of the gas or the jet fuel was higher than it would be on the Air Force base. Mark, thanks for the call. And of course, Trump's self-dealing. Another investigation going on into this. Every week, it seems like there are more investigations into the self-dealing corrupt activities of this president.
Reminds me of Scott Walker using the state airplane to fly around the state 24 miles here. But of course, that was for his benefit, his convenience. But this is really for the bottom line of the president specifically. And everybody else would die fast. And Trump, brags? Here's my kid Don Jr. and my other one, Eric. You know him as Beavis and Butthead.
They're in charge of everything, right?
They're running the business.
Oh, okay.
But, I'm sure they never talk about anything.
No.
I hear Trump Jr. is trying to get into the family business as well now.
The dynasty on the rise?
Dynasty. Generational dynasty, according to Trump's campaign manager. Come back with us.
He's just looking for a raise.
844-967-2789. I hear he's doing just fine.
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf.
Business ethics.
It is a textbook example of the kind of pay-to-play politics that the American people are tired of in Washington, D.C.
Business ethics. Shocking pay-to-play scheme. Business ethics.
Pay for play. It's illegal. It's illegal.
Hey, Milwaukee, you now get more Earl Ingram in the morning. Tune into the Earl Ingram Show now from 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays and noon to 2 Saturdays on WRRD 1510 a.m. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420-2020 cruise from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. We begin in the City of Angels with the Devil's Advocates reception on April 17th, departing the next day for a 7-night cruise with stops in Cabo San Lucas, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta, Mexico on board a shiny new Carnival Panorama cruise ship.
Expedia Price's local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Gun violence, immigration, healthcare, reproductive rights, issues that affect you every day. That's my business. I'm State Representative Jocasta Zamaripa. Join me for the Jocasta Show, Mondays at 6 p.m. on WRRD, 1510 a.m.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. You can hit us up on the phone. Toll free, talk or text, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, Congress is back, and perhaps it's time to talk impeachment.
More impeachment. Yes. Hope they had a great vacation. I hope they're all energized and ready to work some very long hours to set this country straight.
Dominic, I'm going to the Post. Greg Sargent. The push to impeach Trump just got more serious. But there's a problem. Why is there always a problem?
There's always a problem. No problems, man. Just solutions.
Why don't you get us started?
I'll do that. Greg Sargent from the Post. House Democrats are dramatically expanding their inquiry into whether to bring articles of impeachment against President Trump. Do it. That inquiry, which is being run out of the Judiciary Committee, will now include not just an examination of the special counsel's finding, but also scrutiny of Trump's corruption, his dangling of pardons, and his latest shameless acts of self-dealing. And this inquiry is expanding even further than that. Rep. Jamie Raskin, a senior member of the committee, told me that it might include scrutiny of financial information obtained from Deutsche Bank, which is being sought to determine whether Trump engaged in money laundering or whether his foreign dealings left him subject to foreign influence.
Probably.
I would think so. But there's a serious problem here that cannot be deferred forever. There are still no indications that the House Democratic leadership is prepared to allow a full House vote on articles of impeachment, even if such articles are passed out of the Judiciary Committee. Yet at the same time, the broadening of this inquiry is likely to make the case for a full House vote on impeachment articles increasingly irresistible. In an interview with me, Raskin detailed the Judiciary Committee's plan to broaden its ongoing inquiry into whether to bring articles of impeachment, which the New York Times reported on over the weekend. And here's a quote.
I love this quote.
"We are expanding the investigation outwards from the Mueller report to what I think every American can understand intuitively. The president has treated the office as an extended get-rich-quick scheme," he told me. The reason this is happening: Trump has pushed his corruption to the forefront. He publicly confirmed that he wants to host the next Group of Seven meeting at his Doral Resort in Florida, an extraordinarily blatant act of self-dealing. Meanwhile, Vice President Pence stayed at Trump's resort in Ireland amid circumstances that rendered the move almost comically unjustifiable. And this comes after reports confirmed that Trump privately dangled pardons to officials after urging them to break laws to build his border wall faster.
And paint it black.
Democrats are now examining all of it. The Judiciary and Oversight Committees have demanded documents
illuminating Trump's effort to host the G7 and the vice president's stay, arguing that these moves likely violated the Constitution's ban on foreign and domestic emoluments. They're also scrutinizing Trump's dangling of pardons. Raskin told me that Democrats would conduct hearings on Trump's violations of the emolument clauses, and he said Democrats might vote on a resolution calling on Trump to reimburse the emoluments he has pocketed, which, if nothing else, might force the issue to a head. Here's what Raskin says. If he does not, then he has chosen to escalate the constitutional confrontation. At that point, we would probably need to repair to the wisdom of the founders and exercise the remedy they identified for a president engaging in this extraordinary breach of public trust. Raskin added that these blatant moves by Trump should help concentrate the public's case against Trump's corruption. The public is just waking up to the fact that the president has been using his office like a private corporation, he said.
Dominic, let me take up here the Deutsche Bank angle. In a quiet but important move, the Judiciary Committee recently asked multiple other committees, including Intelligence and Financial Services, to share documents or materials they think might assist in deciding on whether to vote on articles of impeachment. This is suggestive of one route all this could take. The Times has reported that the records of the Trump financials held by Deutsche Bank, a longtime lender to Trump, go far beyond Trump's much-coveted tax returns. These records, the Times report, are of intense interest in to the Financial Services Committee, which is examining whether Trump helped Russians or other foreign buyers launder money. Probably. Mm-hmm. And to the Intelligence Committee, which is trying to determine whether Trump's financial entanglements made him vulnerable to foreign influence. Most assuredly, Dom. I'm going to read on here. We don't know how much of that paperwork House investigators will get or how far those probes have gotten or what they will turn up. But if they do bear some fruit, it would likely become part of the inquiry into whether to bring articles of impeachment. And part of the basis for such articles, if they are eventually voted on, Raskin confirmed as much to me, though he cautioned that Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler makes the final decisions. All the evidence turned up by these other committees will be used by the Judiciary Committee in making decisions about further actions to be taken, including Dom's favorite words, articles of impeachment.
Yes.
Raskin told me.
Yes.
Impeach now. Impeach the MFer.
Keep it coming. Keep the investigations coming out. Share the docs. Deutsche Bank, there's lots of stuff. There are lots to get through. I think now that everyone's kind of back at it, the kids are in school, Congress is back in session, they got some catching up to do. And if you recall, it wasn't that long ago, Nadler was saying, October, November, we'll see. Well, that's right around the corner, man. And I cannot imagine that any of this information coming up from Deutsche Bank or the results of these other investigations are going to bode well for this president, given his proclivity to self-deal.
Well, the emoluments, that's the thing that should be so evident to the American people.
It's easy.
Just have a hearing, publicly. I hear Corey Lewandowski's going to have a public hearing. Can't wait. Come back with us. More Devils.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using, munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is WisPolitics Midday.
Good afternoon.
I'm Pat Pobletti, and our report for Wednesday, August 28th is brought to you by Spectrum. The GOP co-chairs of the Joint Finance Committee accused Dem Attorney General Josh Kaul of seeking to undermine a lame duck session law that requires legislative approval to settle a lawsuit by demanding lawmakers sign confidentiality agreements before sharing details on the action. Kaul, meanwhile, told the committee yesterday, failing to sign the non-disclosure agreements and giving him the authority by Friday to move ahead in settlement talks put Wisconsin at risk of losing out on a multi-state lawsuit begun under his GOP predecessor. The blow-up at JFC, which took the rare, if not unprecedented step of meeting in closed session, was the first test of the requirements Republicans approved in the December extraordinary session, giving them oversight of the AG just before Kaul took office. It also came against the backdrop of GOP legislative leaders asking the state Supreme Court to step in and clarify the law that they approved in December, accusing Kaul of ignoring it. One of the GOP attorneys, who's making $500 an hour representing Republicans in the suit, observed at least part of yesterday's proceedings, which stretched for more than 3 hours. Additionally, while the GOP JFC co-chairs labeled Kaul's request to sign a confidentiality agreement a, quote, non-starter after yesterday's hearing, they wrote in a July letter that they were open to ensuring details of proposed settlements submitted for their review would remain secret. They also suggested their own version of a possible non-disclosure agreement after receiving one from Kaul, according to a letter the AG sent committee members yesterday and other correspondence obtained by WisPolitics.com. But Joint Finance Chair John Nygren told WisPolitics.com in a statement Republicans on the committee don't believe they should have to sign non-disclosure agreements. That's because their research since the July exchange shows attorneys general typically haven't asked the Gov's office to do so. Finally, a Senate panel has unanimously signed off on the Department of Children and Families Secretary Emily Edmundson's nomination. Edmundson is the 9th member of Governor Tony Evers' cabinet to win bipartisan backing in a committee vote, though none have received confirmation vote on the Senate floor. For WisPolitics Midday, sponsored by Spectrum, I'm Pat Pobletti.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit wispolitics.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Kreutz are the devil's advocates.
I see a red door and I want it painted black.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, talking about the president, hashtag not my president, found a Greg Sargent piece at the Washington Post. And I'd like to bring it to an explosive conclusion, Dom.
Lay it on me, brother.
As Sargent says, the coming explosion. It seems obvious that that Trump's extraordinarily blatant acts of corruption, he's basically flaunting his ability to carry them out with impunity at this point, can only help build the public case against Trump. If judiciary does not pass articles of impeachment, which appears at least plausible, the question will then be whether Democratic leaders will ever decide that it obligates a full House vote on them. Here's where the problem arises. The leadership appears dug in against such vote. The fact that members in moderate districts aren't feeling constituent pressure on impeachment isn't helping. But if the public case against Trump gets stronger and stronger, indeed, it's already incredibly strong. That means not acting threatens to do serious political damage to the Democrats, further dividing them and making them look feckless and unwilling to hold a corrupt president accountable. What's more, not acting threatens civic damage as well. It would send a message to the public that none of this will be subject to accountability via use of the tools the House has at its disposal. Indeed, as Brian Butler points out, failing to hold a vote clarifying Trump's corruption also lets the full GOP off the hook for its enabling of that corruption. How this tension will get resolved is unclear, but it isn't going away. And as it intensifies, it only threatens to grow more destructive.
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
You know, Jonathan Alter wrote a piece at the Daily Beast suggesting that you got to do an impeachment. It's the only way to get Mitch McConnell on the record, defending the SOB. Moscow Mitch, if he, won't allow an up or down vote on an impeachment? Or does allow the vote, but we see so many Republicans, despite articles of impeachment, defending this president? I mean, we don't have a parallel to Clinton. Trump ain't going to get more popular from this impeachment, not when the truth comes out, not in a public fashion. Right. And I don't mean the hazy stuff that's deep in the Mueller report. I mean, yes, there's plenty there. You've read it. I've perused it. But the emolument stuff, the corruption, the public corruption, he's going on the TV and bragging, I'm bringing the G7 to my golf course. It's been down business-wise. We've got great cabanas. You can't do that.
Well, you can.
But only if Republicans are willing co-conspirators in breaking
Certainly.
the constitutionality of the emoluments clause.
But here's the deal. You don't even need the Republicans to be willing co-conspirators when the Democrats don't bring forth articles of impeachment. And I agree, I guess, to some degree on that end of that piece, is that I don't see how the Democrats cannot. I mean, to me, and I'm not looking at this from a partisan issue. I think my biggest problem with politics in this country are the money and the corruption. That's what I have a problem with. And, I'm not saying there's a D or an R or any other letter you can put behind your name that makes people, totally willing and able to deflect and deny and not use that money. Not everybody, most people are very susceptible to that. And so what we have is this culture of corruption and in our government, certainly with the money. And I have a problem with that. And we see what I consider to be impeachable offenses by this president. And it continues on every single day. You can damn near pick one a week, and this would be something, if it were any other president, that we would all be flipping out about. And it happens. We're just we're overwhelmed with this kind of behavior. We're jumping from one foot to the next. And I mean, hell, we're going on a week now about Trump in this fight with the hurricane hitting Alabama. I mean, how long do these things go on? And it's not just, that Trump is, right, because there was one point at some point, one of the lines of one of the many studies showed that, maybe they would get hit. That's not even the issue. The issue is not now he's using his power as the chief executive to bend to his will an organization responsible for letting Americans know whether or not we have terrible weather coming. And I think that is another impeachable offense. You shouldn't do that.
The threatened purge, is that the problem? Is it the threatened purge of the senior level personnel at the NOAA? Is that the problem? Contradict Trump.
And you'll get fired. That's a problem, yes. These institutions, these agencies should be able to stand on their own and provide the American people with accurate forecasts. And this jackass grabs a Sharpie and tries to extend the cone of this. I mean, it's just so... It's difficult to swallow any of these things. And my point is, you could pick any one of these and have investigations and damn near have an impeachment on these issues. And he's got them coming on every single day, let alone the massive corruption, which I fully expect will become very evident when all the Deutsche Bank documents and everything that we can get access to regarding Trump and his overseas businesses and what kind of influence is put upon him. I think those things will force the Democrats. I hope so. I don't know why they're not there now. And I get cautious and, you got to have people coming out right away.
I'm in a swing district. My constituents aren't supportive of impeachment.
Then maybe you should do a better job expressing and leading your constituents with why impeachment is important. Why, if you as their representative engaged in this kind of behavior, that you would not be qualified to serve them. I mean, this needs to be told and sold. And granted, when these investigations, and it's never fast enough for me, but every day, now we're back at it again. August break is over. Time to get back to work. And these documents, and hopefully these continued investigations and hearings will bring light to more of this corruption and ultimately convince the leadership that now is the time. I'd like to think Pelosi and the leadership are just biding their time until it's time. And maybe they have an idea. I don't know. I'm not the political party guy. But if you do nothing, if you allow this to continue, I would have great umbrage with that behavior.
I'm very confused because Nancy Pelosi, of course, did not prosecute the Wall Street excesses that created the last tumble, the Great Recession, if you will. And she made it very clear at that time, she wasn't there to prosecute it. She didn't prosecute the Iraq War. And now here we go again, and we're choosing not to prosecute this president. And I think in some way, shape, or form, that's part of the reason why. Although Barack Obama won the presidency twice, his presidency was disastrous on a state level, on a legislative level, lots and lots of seats lost, while the Democrats refused to prosecute the crimes that were so very clearly evident to the American people. Remember the whole Occupy Wall Street? Well, that's because they didn't do anything to the bankers. They let the bankers get away with it.
Well, they didn't get away with it, Curdy. They paid billions and billions and billions of dollars in fines. Well, like one dude went to jail? I mean, it's
not
a
clear
joke.
That anybody went to jail.
That's a shame. That's a joke. How can you possibly pay billions of dollars because of fraud perpetuated by your organizations? And none of the executives, Jamie Dimon, et cetera, none of that? No, you're fine. Stay where you're at.
Corporations are people, my friend, except when it comes to criminal culpability. Right. And then that's just the actions of the corporation. Here's something I would point out. Some of this most recent impeachment talk. Why? Because the president is stonewalling. Executive privilege. Absolute privilege. Making up privileges. And these battles will be fought through the courts. And I'm not clear how expeditiously they're coming down the courts, although in Watergate days, it went pretty quick after they started an impeachment inquiry. But I would point out there is some public testimony coming. And this is a key Trump figure who never worked in the White House and cannot cloak his testimony with any sort of executive privilege.
He'll try.
Corey Lewandowski. Never worked for the president. Never worked in the White House.
Right.
That is not a plausible excuse to not give public testimony. And he's being compelled. He's been subpoenaed. Let me read briefly from the Hill. This piece dropped on the 9th. The House Judiciary Committee has secured the testimony of President Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, later this month, marking the first public appearance of a Trump ally as Democrats seek to investigate possible obstruction of justice. This probably over the firing or the go fire Don McGahn. I mean, he told Corey Lewandowski, the guy didn't even work for him, go fire Jeff Sessions. Some of this stuff's going to sound awfully bad when you hear it in public hearings.
Well, and we haven't talked about this in some time. Add that again. Well, not add it. Go back and remember what this particular one is all about.
Well, Judiciary Chairman Gerald Nadler has subpoenaed Lewandowski to testify by September 17th. That's next week, Tom. Announced on Monday that he would appear on that date. Nadler has also subpoenaed former White House officials Rob Porter and Rick Dearborn to testify with Lewandowski at the joint hearing, noting that all three men are tied to a key episode of possible obstruction by Trump described in the former special counsel Robert Mueller's report. But it is unclear if Porter and Dearborn will appear since the White House has successfully blocked both former and current officials from testifying publicly until this point. The White House has argued that confidentiality protections offered to the executive branch apply to current and former aides. This effectively prevents them from disclosing what took place during their time in the administration, the White House contends. And while both Republicans and Democratic administrations have invoked the immunity concept, legal experts say there is virtually no case law on the subject. Some predict the White House is likely to lose if challenged in court. And Lewandowski, who never served in the Trump administration and therefore outside of the White House's current claims of immunity, publicly stated he would testify before the committee, vowing he would do so with the goal of defending the president. Here's a quote, Tom, from Corey Lewandowski. I am an open book. I want to go and remind the American people that these guys are on a witch hunt, right? Lewandowski is considering a New Hampshire Senate run, told Fox News Radio last month. Witch hunt, go defend the president, Corey. So from Corey's telling, none of this is going to sound bad. When Corey Lewandowski was directed to go fire the Attorney General of the United States, well, that's not a bad thing. Not through my prism. How are you going to spin that, Corey? Tell the truth. Stand up for your president.
He's an open book. Well, I hope he is. And I hope he testifies truthfully. And if the report is correct and Trump asked Lewandowski to go fire the Attorney General?
Well, Don McCann.
I mean, come on.
First they tried to fire Don McCann, right? Only it wasn't a firing because no one would consent to do what the president told him to do. Pardon me. They wanted to fire Mueller.
Mueller. No, because McGahn threatened to resign.
McGahn was directed to go fire Mueller effectively. A Saturday Night Massacre was directed by Trump. And he basically resigned and said,
yes,
the president's doing crazy.
He's asking me to do crazy stuff.
But never acknowledged specifically what that was. Don McGahn, that's the one I want to see testify. I know you and Jim Santel both want to see Mueller testify. And some there, maybe not a lot of style points, but Don McGahn, direct witness to the obstruction, as was potentially Corey Lewandowski. And he's going to give public testimony and come out and fully vindicate his president on the 17th from the witch hunts.
Okay. We look forward to it next week.
Wednesday, I believe, the 17th. Dom, come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. We'll check our calendars. We'll coordinate our schedules. And we'll come back with you on the phones at 844-967-2789.
But there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
My congressman, our good friend Mark Pocan, if Donald Trump's under attack, Mark, are you worried about his inspired followers rising up and voting him to re-election?
I am trying to approach this with blinders on when it comes to the political side of it. If he has violated the Constitution, it is our obligation to do an impeachment. And I think from what I've read, I feel that. I think when we get some witnesses in, we'll really have full clarity on that. But if it was just political reasons, some people say, well, then you're going to get, Mike Pence, is that good? And you can second guess every decision we ever make in politics if it's just about politics. In this case, I think that you rise to the Constitution. And if he has violated the Constitution, which I believe he has, there's obstruction on multiple counts, then we have no choice but to do our constitutional job and go after that.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates interviews at DomandCrute.com. Click on the podcast tab and select interviews. That's DomandCrute.com.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on the phones. Talk or text toll free, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I've got a statement from the House Judiciary Committee dated September 9th.
Today, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler announced the House Judiciary Committee will consider procedures on Thursday for future hearings related to its investigation to determine whether to recommend articles of impeachment with respect to President Donald Trump. Additionally, Chairman Nadler announced the committee will hold a hearing on September 17th with Corey Lewandowski, President Trump's former campaign manager. Trump asked Lewandowski twice to deliver a message to former Attorney General Jeff Sessions to limit the Mueller investigation, making Lewandowski a critical witness to the presidential obstruction of justice. The committee subpoenaed Rob Porter and Rick Dearborn, who also witnessed President Trump's repeated obstruction for the same hearing. The new procedures will provide that, and here are a couple of bullet points. I'll read them quickly. Chairman Nadler will be able to designate full or subcommittee hearings as part of the investigation to determine whether to recommend articles of impeachment. Committee counsel, this might be important, Dom, may question witnesses for an additional hour beyond the 5 minutes allocated to each member of Congress on the committee. So typically we see this back and forth, right? 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And there's no continuity to the questioning.
Right.
But now, according to Nadler, they're going to have another hour, although that time will be divided between the majority and the minority. Evidence may be received in closed executive session. This allows the committee to protect the confidentiality of sensitive materials when necessary, such as with grand jury materials. And the President's counsel may respond in writing to evidence and testimony presented to the committee. And here's the statement from Nadler. President Trump went to great lengths to obstruct special counsel Mueller's investigation, including the president's attempts to remove the special counsel and encourage witnesses to lie and to destroy or conceal evidence. Anyone else who did this would face face federal criminal prosecution. The Mueller report resulted in 37 criminal indictments, 7 guilty pleas, and revealed 10 possible instances where President Trump obstructed justice, at least 5 of which we now know to be clearly criminal. Trump's crimes and the corruption extend beyond what is detailed in the Mueller report. The president is in violation of the emoluments clauses of the Constitution as he works to enrich himself, putting the safety and security of our nation at risk. He has dangled pardons, been involved in campaign finance violations, and stonewalled Congress across the board, noting that he will defy all subpoenas. No one is above the law. The unprecedented corruption, cover-up, and crimes by the president are under investigation by the committee as we determine whether to recommend articles of impeachment or other Article 1 remedies. The adoption of these additional procedures is the next step in that process and will help ensure our impeachment hearings are informative to Congress and the most important part, Tom, and the public, while providing the president with the ability to respond to evidence presented against him. We will not allow Trump's continued obstruction to stop us from delivering the truth to the American people. So help me God. You better get it right, Nadler.
They better get it right. And they need to keep going down this road. Here is an article from Political back on August 7th. And this refers to the McGahn case. Now, of course, the Democrats have filed a lawsuit against McGahn to enforce the subpoena. And let's get to the end here. Democrats attempted on Wednesday, again, this is early August, to link the McGahn lawsuit to earlier effort to access Mueller's grand jury materials, a formal notice that ensures their lawsuit, at least initially, will come before the D.C. federal court's chief judge, Beryl Howell. Howell, who oversees all grand jury matters in the D.C. district, has set a September schedule for considering that case and will now decide whether to consider it formally linked to the McGahn matter or whether to farm out the case to a different judge. It's unclear whether McGahn's attorney or the Justice Department will weigh in on that matter. Earlier this week, again in August, Nadler outlined an ambitious timeline for when the committee could formally recommend articles of impeachment against the president. In an MSNBC interview, Nadler said, "We could get to that late in the fall." But Howell laid out a briefing schedule in the grand jury case that doesn't begin until September 6th, suggesting it could be weeks before the McGahn case gets moving too. Given the typical pace of court action, Nadler's timeline would be a long shot, according to Politico. But I guess the point being, they're going to consider this case this month, whether to merge it or to spin it off, and that's going to... So we still probably at least, a month or two or more out on any sort of decision or any sort of action regarding the McGahn case. Now, that's a little scary because this thing's got to move. If McGahn is forced to show up, now my understanding doesn't necessarily mean he will answer every question, but he's got to be in the room. Well, if this absolute immunity from the Trump administration is kicked out with McGahn, presumably it's kicked out for everybody else.
Absolute immunity.
You know what I mean? Come on, man.
Is there such a thing?
Well, when you say it, did you just made it up? If you made it up, now it's a thing. when it hits Urban Dictionary.
Diplomatic community.
Right?
I'm on gold, no take backs.
No, there is no such, not in this country. No, hell no. And anybody that would suggest that there is any sort of absolute immunity ever, that the president or the people around him are immune from any sort of prosecution.
Couple years and counting.
What's that?
So far, he's been the Teflon Don.
Well, so far. I mean, so was the Teflon Don until he wasn't. And what does that mean? Well, there were prosecutors going out. Well, but that's the thing. That's what they're hoping. That's what they're hoping. Oh, this is taking too long. This is too tough. It's too difficult. There's too many things to consider. Oh, we got to do this. We got to do that. No, we got a lecture around the corner. That's why it is very important for the Dems to get their ducks in a row quickly and get this information out quickly so we can have swifter justice. Waiting 4 years is too long. This has got to happen now. We can't continue like this.
I hope for a big electoral win because that's what it's going to come down to. We're not going to see justice per se, not in the way that you would like it, Dom. We're not going to see an impeachment remedy, not in the full-blown sense the American people are suddenly educated and the American people are rallying around and saying, you know, he must go. And you and I believe in that fashion.
But if you do believe, let me this one out there, the Russian money laundering, right? Going back years, okay? Do you believe that that's a possibility?
Sure,
right.
I do, but I don't think that will be the rationale or the reason that he is impeached. I think
here's what I'm telling you.
Obvious.
Well, it's one, but, you know, that's
what about the daily public corruption?
Right.
I mean, when he's doing it up front, when you got the G7 at Doral, that's breaking the Constitution.
Because laundering Russian mob money is way more glorious than emoluments.
But he's already claimed complete vindication and exoneration. I'm not sure.
Well, it doesn't matter what he claims. What matters is what's out there. If that happened, you got to split it up and you got to spit it out for the American people to digest. If the man was laundering
and
Russian
Republicans
money,
to deny.
Whatever. If that was happening, that's an easy one as well.
Orrin Hatch said, Republican senator, I don't care if he broke laws. I don't care if he broke laws. They don't care. They know he's a criminal.
I don't give a damn if Republicans care or not. The Dems better care. They better do something instead of nothing.
Our audience better start dialing the phone because if I got to listen to more Dominic ranting, 844-967-2789. The happy hour commences right now.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
I spent the last few years building up an immunity.
Diplomatic community.
Hey, Milwaukee, you now get more Earl Ingram in the morning. Tune into the Earl Ingram Show now from 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays and noon to 2 Saturdays on WRD 1510 a.m. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420-2020 cruise from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. We begin in the City of Angels with the Devil's Advocates reception on April 17th, departing the next day for a 7-night cruise with stops in Cabo San Lucas, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta, Mexico on board a shiny new Carnival Panorama cruise ship.
Expedia prices local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers.
Hey guys, I'm Maggie Dawn, your lady lawyer, legal eagle, and sensei of economics. Tune into my show, Dawn of the Resistance, live Thursdays and Fridays from 6 to 7 on WRRD 1510 AM. Always streaming live at newstalk1510am.com.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Taliban talks, impeachment move. I'm Ann Cates. President Trump says peace negotiations with the Taliban are dead after canceling a secret summit in the U.S.
Why would he talk with them face-to-face at Camp David?
Otherwise, wars would never end. You'd have them go on forever. We had a meeting scheduled. It was my idea, and it was my idea to terminate it. I didn't discuss it with anybody else.
In tweets, Mr. Trump dismissed reports that Vice President Mike Pence advised against the Camp David meeting, and Mr. Pence backed him up with his own tweet saying he fully supports the president. Bob Costantini, the White House.
House Democrats will establish rules this week for impeachment proceedings against the president. Correspondent Manu Raju.
The House Judiciary Committee on Thursday will vote to essentially formalize its process and hearings and its investigation, saying that what they are doing is essentially an impeachment investigation. What this resolution does is essentially set the ground rules for how these hearings will be carried out. Things like staff attorneys on the committee can question witnesses, something that typically is not done.
3 of 4 crew members trapped in a cargo ship that capsized off the Georgia coast have been rescued today. Coast Guard Captain John Reed says efforts continue to free the 4th man.
Those same experts who got us to where we are right now are going to find a way to get him safely extracted from that room as well. And he, unfortunately, has not had the access to fresh water or food that the others have at this point. So we'll continue to press forward.
The FBI, Coast Guard, and U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, meanwhile, are overseeing a criminal investigation into a dive boat fire off the Southern California coast that left 34 people dead. Federal agents have raided the offices of the ship's owner and the company's 2 remaining vessels. All but 1 body has been found, with recovery efforts hampered by high winds off Santa Cruz Island. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 38 points, the S&P down a fraction, the Nasdaq off 16. I'm Ann Cates.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. We've officially moved into our new space off Pleasant View Road in Middleton, and we're excited to announce that Madison Liquidators is now Dane County's premier dealer for Groupe Lacoste. In addition to their unbeatable 25-year warranty, Groupe Lacoste has 10 lines to choose from, ranging from traditional to ultra-modern, all available in 18 different finishes. Give me a call and let's make a plan for your space, or go online to madisonliquidators.com and shop our complete inventory of used office furniture.
All right, well, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say you'd be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist then, Gary, by that logic?
No, I'm not saying he is, but
But he said he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your biblical logic, Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
UPS expects to hire 100,000 workers for the holidays.
Historically low unemployment rates and a tight job market make the recruitment for holiday help a lot tougher, not just for shipping companies, but for retailers with the holiday shopping bottom line in mind. UPS this year is hiring about the same number of additional employees as last year. Other big shipping companies and a bunch of merchants will be out with their holiday plans within the next few weeks. Last year, UPS held a first ever job fair at 170 locations nationwide to fill their slots. Company executives say they may do the same this year. I'm Jan Johnson.
Borrowing has surged at its fastest pace in almost 2 years, driven by a big jump in credit card use. Overall, consumer borrowing increased by more than $23 billion in July. That is the biggest monthly gain since November 2017. I'm Ann Cates.
What is it?
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Go back to where they came from, help those people come back and show us how to do it. That was the full quote.
They didn't come from anywhere. They were here, dude. Are you employed, Chris?
I am.
Do you have an HR department?
Yes, I do. I'm a union machinist.
Oh, do you work with minorities?
I do.
If you walked up to one of your coworkers who was a minority, you told them to go back to where they came from, would HR have a conversation with you about that, do you think?
It depends on the person, really. I mean, some people are...
If somebody complained to HR about what you said, do you think they conversation.
Oh,
with you
yeah.
about that. Okay.
Absolutely.
But
Oh,
why?
absolutely.
Why would they pull you off of your job to discuss this with you? And what do you think their beef would be?
Because they're trying to protect the corporation from lawsuits.
Lawsuit for what?
Discrimination, racism.
So if your coworkers, if you say it to your coworker, it could be described as discrimination or racism. But when the president says it to the world, it's not racist?
No. Yikes.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Sheriff's officials say an Edgerton man has died after he was run over by a bulldozer in Rock County. First responders were called to a property in the town of Milton about 5:30 p.m. yesterday, where the 30-year-old man was found unresponsive. The victim, who was pronounced dead at the scene, was doing excavation work on the property and working alone. And the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District is proposing an increase in spending for next year. The additional funding will be used for a variety of services, including wastewater. District officials say the proposed plan would cost about $10 or an additional 2% for a Milwaukee homeowner with a home valued at $200,000. More than 1 million people in 10 communities are served by MMSD. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour. I see you've got adult beverage near at hand.
It is happy hour. I'm happy. It's happy hour.
I'm not officially cleansing still, but I'm
You're
still
not? You're
dieting.
You're
dieting.
behaving yourself?
I'm dieting.
Yeah, there's a lot of empty calories in the alcohol, man. That's a tough one.
I did have a couple
over the
cold
weekend
ones on Saturday night.
Well, that's okay.
Like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Had to celebrate that.
So you're done.
Glorious Badger one.
You done cleansing then? The cleanse is over?
Yeah, mostly because after day 3, my wife didn't have the prerequisite celery juice and necessary stuff. And I figured it was her cleanse, but I have been pretty strict. I've had nothing but like water and a little bit of rum on Saturday night. But other than that,
water and rum
and apples and salads. Lots of salads. I had a salad for lunch.
Yeah, man, you're
so didn't even enjoy tacos.
You're doing so well. You feel
down
better?
a few pounds.
You down a few pounds? Good, man. How long has it been? Like a week?
Yeah, like a week today.
You'll be fine. Do another week. Be down a few more.
Come on, man. We're going to Houston on Wednesday. What's the likelihood I'll be cleansing down in Houston?
They have such good barbecue in Texas. Oh, my God.
They do have salads in Texas, too, I hear.
You know, my greatest fear is
slow-cooked meats. Oh,
yeah.
God.
I'm going to go for like one real meal, like some meat-based meal. I'm going to gain like 12 pounds.
Nah, it'll be all water weight, man. With all the salt, you'll be all right.
I had the Chinese joint up by the Coin the one night.
Yeah.
You know, late, after having many drinks. I gained like 8 pounds that night. Between the booze and then the Chinese food.
Did they give you the buffet to take home with you, or how did you do that?
Lots of egg rolls. Dominic, real quick, a less important headline, but still one I'd like to mention during the course of this big show. It is the happy hour, after all. Raw Story reports President Donald Trump lashed out at Chrissy Teigen.
Who?
And John Legend after the couple appeared on an MSNBC town hall on criminal justice. And thousands of other social media users hurled mockery at him. They aren't the only ones. The president was apparently angered that Teigen and Legend, as well as host Lester Holt, you remember him? That's the one that Trump admitted obstruction of justice to. I fired Comey to take the pressure off the Russia thing.
This Russia thing. Yeah, I remember that guy.
This Russia thing.
They apparently failed to credit him with signing what is known as the First Step Act, and he attacked the two men by name, but failed to tag Tegan, a Twitter celebrity with over 11.5 million followers. Very similar to you, Dom.
Yeah, not really.
Here's what Trump said. Musician at John Legend and his filthy-mouthed wife are talking now about how great it is, but I don't see them around when we needed help getting it passed. Anchor at Lester Holt, anchor in, air quotes, doesn't even bring up the subject of President Trump or Republicans when talking about, and who cares what the rest of this is. Tegan mocked Trump as a, and I've got to change the words ever so slightly, wussy-ass bitch president for keeping her Twitter handle out of the attack, and other Twitter users piled on. Yes, they did.
You've got a dirty, whorish mouth.
Yeah, I'm not going to share all of them. But what happens when you get bitch slapped by Chrissy Teigen, man? And he would give her some credibility. She is also, I believe, somewhat renowned for reality TV.
Oh, great. No wonder why I don't know. I mean, I guess it's entertaining to see celebrities go after each other like that, I guess. Trump is such a small man that he has to reach out. I mean, this is what he's doing. I mean, for real. Or we're supposed to have these talks with the Taliban, and what, North Korea's going to come back around again. And
talks are dead.
There's so many other things to do with the 24 hours that is in a day in the life of a president of the United States, and this is how he spends his time.
Well, he did tweet also at a new, apparently Republican presidential candidate. Trump tweeted out at Mark Sanford. You remember Sanford, right, Tom?
I do.
Former governor of South Carolina. Here is what Trump tweeted when the former governor of the great state of South Carolina, at Mark Sanford, was reported missing, only to say he was hiking on the Appalachian Trail. Now, I wish I had the Twitter stream up, not just a photo there. Bear with me. See if I can pull it up. Oh, here it is. Get this all in. When the former governor of the great state of South Carolina, at Mark Sanford, was reported missing, only to then say he was away hiking on the Appalachian Trail, then was found in Argentina with his flaming dancer friend. Flamenco dancer?
Not sure.
Kofifi? It sounded like his
The word to text wasn't working right for him?
It sounded like his political career was over. It was, but then he ran for Congress and won, only to lose re-elect after I tweeted my endorsement on Election Day for his opponent. But now take heart, he is back and running for President of the United States. The Three Stooges, all badly failed candidates, will give it a go! Exclamation point. So back to the original part. Apparently Trump is taking digs at Mark Sanford for his alleged infidelity. And Rick Wilson, do you remember Rick Wilson? Conservative strategist. I think he worked on Walker's presidential campaign, at least consulted. Rick Wilson tweeted at the president, "You F porn stars and pay them to keep quiet about your tiny penis." And I had to insert two words. Sort of a nasty mouth fella himself, that Rick Wilson.
I guess so.
So anyways, I felt it appropriate, Tom, to share. It's very ironic that Donald Trump would call out anyone else's infidelity.
Oh, of course.
Or is lying about it.
Because, it doesn't, Trump has no shame, right? So the hypocrisy is
he's got a little
on him.
Penis shame, apparently.
Yeah, but that's on the inside.
A little mushroom.
He doesn't see the hypocrisy of being critical of others for doing very similar things that he does. Because when he does
Never did it.
Oh, right.
Just had his fixer pay the porn star $130,000, that he didn't have sex with.
If you cheat on your wife, are you going to be honest with your country?
It's another example of I had nothing to do with it, right?
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me. He was asked on Air Force One about the payments to Stormy Daniels. Nope. Didn't know about it. Nope. Well, of course. His signature is on some of the checks.
After he was the president.
In
$85,000 check, I believe, to the fixer Michael Cohen from Trump's personal bank account signed by Donald Trump.
And some of those checks also signed by Junior and the
Trump Borg
CFO or whatever, the CEO or
Weisselberg.
Weisselberg, yeah. So, yes, of course, it's ironic. How could you possibly be critical Trump when you have engaged in this behavior? And in fact, your cover-up of that behavior violates campaign finance laws as far as I am concerned.
Well, no man who cheated on his wife and got caught lying about it could ever feasibly be a presidential candidate, could he?
See, the bar has lowered.
I'm just a regular guy, and I'm wondering if you can't keep the promise to your family, can't keep your promise to your wife, you're having an affair, you're lying about the affair repeatedly, why should the American people trust you when you say you're not going to lie to them? Why should we trust you?
That's a great question,
I
Sean
remember
Hannity.
some Republicans in the 90s that thought a sexual picadillo was worthy of impeachment.
844-967-2789.
Had to cleanse the presidency, I think Lindsey Graham
That's what Lindsey said.
I do declare.
Hey, Dick, happy Monday. You are up. Thanks for calling. What do you got?
Hey, Dick.
Oh, just this. I totally agree with you on the impeachment thing, but unfortunately, the person that has to have the nads to do it will never have the nads to do it. It's Pelosi. And,
genetically, she wasn't born with nads, but, we'd like to see her.
But here's the deal. I still agree that it should be done for the simple reason that it's just this constant flow of horrible, horrible information that you put out there during an election year. What's wrong with that? It's great. I don't think it's going to go anywhere either. I really don't. He's not going to be thrown out of office before next fall's election.
Shouldn't that be part of the electoral? I mean, if truly this is an electoral end, if this is Nancy Pelosi playing politics, and I think it is, I would say the better political outcome is to force the Republicans, those especially up for re-election in the Senate, force them to vote to acquit the man.
Absolutely. Then you are actually outing them, and you're saying, here, these are the people that are still with them, even though it's proven. What's up with this guy? It's just...
But Dick, should we, as citizens of this country, and granted, not everyone's who voted, who stayed home, or who voted for somebody else other than Trump, not everyone's a Democrat, Dick, but we have remedies in Congress, and that is impeachment. And if you see activity and information available, proof, let's call it, of impeachable acts, how do you, especially to the degree and volume, and again, there's more to come, Dick, I guarantee it. How does Nancy Pelosi, how does the leadership not go down that road? They lose credibility with me, and I would have bet with other people as well, Dick, if they see
kind of like the Iraq War and Wall Street.
What do you think, Dick?
You know how they're always harping about his base of 39 or 36% or whatever the hell it is, maybe 40 at best. What about the Democrats you're talking about? What about your base, and you don't do anything to show that you're serious about this?
Right.
And that's all I'm saying. Just do it. Pull the trigger on it and get going with it.
Well, the evidence is public, Dick. Thanks for the call. I watched a movie this weekend. Dick.
The evidence is public. There's more to become public. And again, Russian money laundering. And if the things aren't true, there's still enough with emoluments and obstruction of justice. And I mean, you can still go down the list. But the grandiose, the big papa is Russian money laundering. And if there is evidence
that's already
of that,
baked in the cake.
No, it's not, dude. No, it's not.
Republicans think it's completely acceptable to accept funneled, laundered money, at least if it conduits through the NRA.
If Deutsche Bank paid hundreds of millions of dollars in fines because of that very same activity that perhaps Donald Trump was involved with, I think there should be some comeuppance for Trump as well.
Well, when Lawrence O'Donnell can back up his singularly sourced thing, then there might be a comeuppance. Come back. More devil's advocate.
Come on, Crudy.
Stop stepping on the John Legend singing with the Muppets. Brian worked very hard on this musical choice. We'll be right back.
If I was married to somebody and that was revealed to be true, where's any level of love there?
Fuck that guy.
The National Black Leadership Alliance asks 2 questions. What would it take to close the racial divide in America? And what does racial justice look like in America today? Starting on Monday, September 9th through Friday, September 13th on the Earl Ingram Show, we will be joined by dozens of great guests from Reverend Al Sharpton to Tamika Mallory. Join us for this important and topical conversation on the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. on WRRD 1510 a.m. and Talk 92.7 FM.
Madison Liquidators has officially moved into a bigger, nicer showroom off Pleasant View Road in Middleton, and they are proud to announce they have expanded to provide educational and healthcare institutional furnishings. They have great new offerings of quality new office furnishings from industry leaders like Groupe Lacoste and Via Seating, and you can see the expanded and extensive inventory of used furniture online at MadisonLiquidators.com, or you can call Kelly and have her help you make a plan for your new space. Start today at MadisonLiquidators.com and tell them you heard them on Talk 92.7 FM.
We the people, the hardworking 99% of men and women, only have a voice when we join together as one and amplify our message. Now is the time for all Wisconsinites to join We the People and raise our voices. Do you feel like you are wasting your money funding unaccountable consultants, unresponsive candidates, and their campaigns? Help us do something that really matters. Please join We the People. Give what you can so we can support progressive radio stations like this one, using the public airwaves to educate Wisconsin about what we the people want for our state and remind Wisconsin's politicians that they work for us. Your donations to We the People at p4ppc.org, a registered, compliant IRS 501c3, will always be tax deductible, will always remain anonymous, and We the People pledge to spend 100% of donations educating Wisconsin on the issues our donors want discussed, giving individuals a voice in the collective message of We the People. Please give today at p4ppc.org. That's p4ppc.org. We the People need you.
60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and on the phones. Toll free, talk or text at 844-967-2789.
So, being reported, I think we mentioned this today, New York Times says that the Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, threatened senior officials at the NOAA if they contradicted Trump's claims that, you know, the hurricane was going to ravage Alabama. Sweet home Alabama. You know, he doesn't even have a resort in Alabama, does he?
Well, so, okay, that's a bad thing, right? We think that's probably, is that an impeachable offense?
You would like to think, at least for the Commerce Secretary, right? Shouldn't Wilbur Ross go bye-bye? You know, maybe he's being overly exuberant on behalf of the boss. One cannot assume that Donald Trump told him to go tell everyone at the NOAA, you contradict me, you're fired. But I think the implication was probably there.
It's worth asking the question under oath, don't you think?
Here's my work rule for you boys. You contradict me, you're fired.
Good luck with that.
Can't all employers just say, if you contradict the boss, you're fired?
I guess you could. But if you are working for the NOAA and the president of the United States throws out some BS and the local service corrects the record, rightly so, and then you're going to threaten to fire people, I have an issue with that.
Didn't you see the map? How dare you?
I know, I saw the Sharpie.
Contradict that map.
Who drew the Sharpie? Now, I've seen reports that it was Trump himself.
Trump drew.
No, he denies it, right? I don't know. He said it 3 times.
I had
He's
nothing
got nothing
to do with it.
Right? Of course he did it. What?
Of course he had sex with the porn stars he
Yes,
paid off.
of
Of course he
course.
laundered money for the
Of
Russians.
course.
Of course he ordered the firing of Mueller through Don McCann. Of course.
Of course.
It all seems so very obvious to you and I, Dom, those of us that pay attention. But what about the Republicans, Dom? And what about the Trump supporters? Well, Max Boot, a somewhat conservative columnist at the Washington Post, has this to offer you for optimism, my little buddy. A new poll shows voters aren't buying what Trump is selling. The snake oil ain't selling so well anymore. Condos at the Trump Tower, Soho. Let me read. President Trump inherited more than $400 million from his father, invested in one failed business after another. Trump must be the only person in the world who can't make money off steaks, vodka, or gambling. He would have been better off putting his money in an index fund.
Right.
Now that he has brought his reverse Midas touch to politics, despite a booming economy, he is the only president in modern history to achieve at least a 50% job approval rating. He inherited a Republican-controlled Congress and in his first midterm election, lost control of the House. It's not just that Trump is personally unpopular, so are his views. On issue after issue, the country rejects the populist snake oil that he's peddling. Trump breathlessly and endlessly touts the economy, claiming it's doing great. Yet in a recent Quinnipiac poll, most Americans said the economy is getting worse, 37%, than say it's getting better, 31%. Trump opposes any attempt to strengthen lax gun laws, even refusing to back universal background checks. Yet Gallup reports that support for stricter gun laws, now at 61%, has reached one of the highest levels in a quarter century. Now, I'd point out, here in the state of Wisconsin, Dom, it's 80% for universal background checks, and it was 81% for red flag laws, including 81% of gun owners in the state of Wisconsin that would prefer to see if someone was off their rocker as adjudicated by a court that they might lose their guns, for a while, till they calm down maybe. I read on. Trump is indifferent to environmental protection or the need to address global warming, yet the Pew Research reports the public supports making environmental protection 56% and climate change 44% a top priority. Trump is a fanatical nativist who has made opposition to non-white immigration a centerpiece of his administration. Yet Pew finds that 62% think that immigrants strengthen our country, compared with only 28% who think they are a burden. That's a major shift from a quarter century ago. I'm going to jump down here. Dom, keep it moving. A new survey released Monday from the Chicago Council on Global Affairs reinforces these findings and extends them into foreign policy and trade policy. Trump is an isolationist at heart, but the survey shows the American public is becoming more, not less, supportive of foreign engagement. 69% of those surveyed think that the United States should take an active part in world affairs. One of the only times in the past 45 years that support for international engagement has been higher was in the immediate aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Trump views NATO as a ripoff, yet 73% of the public thinks NATO is essential to U.S. security, up from 65% when Trump was elected, Dom.
The public has similarly rejected Trump's protectionism. The percentage of Americans who think that international trade is good for the U.S. economy has risen to an astonishing 87%, a whopping increase of 28 points since Trump was elected. For all of Trump's vilification of U.S. trade partners, overwhelming majorities favor trade with Germany at 87%, Japan 87%, and Mexico 83%. 74% even support trade with China despite or because of Trump's trade war.
Dom, those top-line findings, however, mask a bitter and growing partisan split on many issues. With the help of the conservative media industrial complex, Trump is brainwashing Republicans. Despite his breaks with decades of Republican orthodoxy on trade, immigration, alliances, and other, the Chicago Council found that the number of Republicans who view immigration as a threat has risen to 78% from 67 and 16, while the number who viewed China as a threat has increased to 54%. A bare majority of Republicans now support a U.S. leadership role in the world, down from 57% in 15. Only 23% of Republicans view climate change as a threat. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, the happy hour. It continues.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council. To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on WRRD 1510 AM. Weekdays, hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's The Forum with Sherwin Hughes from 9 till noon. From noon till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Jocasta Zamaripa, Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Listen online at newstalk1510am.com.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Hey, Al Bachman here. My family has owned and operated Bachman Construction since 1954. Since opening our doors, understanding the needs of our clients, and striving to exceed their expectations have been the cornerstones of how we do business. Quality is our foundation. We are proud of providing quality service and establishing a tradition of excellence in the Madison community for more than 65 years. Give Bachman Construction a call today and let us know how we can use our 3 generations of experience to make your next project a success.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
5 9s, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern. This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Scott Walker tweeting out from a La Quinta in a Rancho del Solio Ronald Reagan fashion shirt.
You know,
only
as a guy
online.
who's wearing a Bernie Sanders shirt, how can you rip on
bootleg.
a guy for wearing a Ronald Reagan shirt?
Buddy, I got a Bernie bootleg on. This is cool on so many levels. You don't even know how cool I am.
I do not. If it could just be a little tighter.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A new controversy is starting to brew in Dodge County. The sheriff says from now on he will post the mugshot of anyone arrested on suspicion of operating a vehicle while intoxicated on social media. Sheriff Dale Schmidt posted the first 6 pictures on August 28th. The sheriff is being criticized for the postings because the people have not yet been convicted of a crime. The mugshots are accompanied by the person's name, age, and the municipality in which they live. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a chance of rain, lows in the upper 60s. Tomorrow, partly sunny with highs in the mid-80s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the happy hour. It continues, Dom. And this Max Boot piece, nearly concluded. I think we should bring it to conclusion. I'm going to read it to conclusion.
All right.
I've already turned off your mic, so just sit quietly by in your corner.
Okay.
It is deeply unfortunate that Trump is dragging Republicans deeper into the fever swamps of climate denialism, nativism, protectionism, and isolationism. The good news is that, according to Gallup, Republicans make up only 27% of the electorate, a figure that grows to 40% if you add in Republican-leaning independents. The rest of the country is repulsed by the president and his odious views. Democratic presidential candidates, many of them as protectionist and hostile to global leadership as Trump is, don't forget Max is a conservative, should take note. The electorate wants more, not less, engagement in the world. The public's rejection of Trumpism gives me some hope that we can recover from this disastrous presidency, especially if it ends on January 20, 2021. From your lips to God's ears, Max. Max Boot at the Washington Post.
844-967-2789. Pizza Box Mike, you're up. Thanks for calling today, my friend. What do you got for us?
Oh, hey, don't worry, guys. There's 3 white guys going to run against Trump now.
Sanford, Bill Weld, and my buddy Joe Walsh.
Yeah, it's going to be fun watching. I mean, not because I think Trump is right, but he's going to destroy these guys.
Well,
I'm just wondering why.
He's not going to. I mean, the Republicans have actually blocked the ability of primary opponents in a number of states, and Donald Trump came out earlier today and said there will be no debate with the Three Stooges.
I know. And he's probably not going to have a debate with them. But I'm wondering why he didn't just meet with the Taliban at Mar-a-Lago. I heard they have a membership there.
Thanks for the call, Pizza Box. Unfortunately, we have a terrible line. Please feel free to give us a call back tomorrow, 844-967-2789. Fair question. Given the amount of self-dealing here, why don't you just meet, one of the properties?
Or maybe in Helsinki. Or perhaps in Moscow, Dom.
Well, why not? I'm sure Putin would be happy to host them. Crudy, this piece, this story came out today. CNN.
You find this very troubling.
I do. Let's get to it. In a previously undisclosed secret mission in 2017, the United States successfully extracted from Russia one of its highest-level covert sources inside the Russian government. Multiple Trump administration officials with direct knowledge told CNN.
Now, why would they need to get a U.S. spy out of Russia just because Donald Trump was the president, Dom?
A person directly involved in the discussion said that the removal of the Russian was driven in part by concerns that President Donald Trump and his administration repeatedly mishandled classified intelligence and could contribute to exposing the covert source as a spy.
You don't say.
The decision to carry out the extraction occurred soon after a May 2017 meeting in the Oval Office in which Trump discussed highly classified intelligence with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and then Russian Ambassador to the U.S., Sergei Kislyak.
Now, real quick, Dom, that was Israeli intelligence, if my memory serves, and that was also the day they discussed the firing of Jim Comey.
To release the pressure. The disclosure, yes, you're right. The intelligence was concerning ISIS in Syria, and that intelligence, as CNN reports, as you mentioned, was provided by Israel. The disclosure to the Russians by the president, though not about the Russian spy specifically, prompted intelligence officials to renew earlier discussions about the potential risk of exposure, according to the source directly involved in the matter. At the time, then CIA Director Mike Pompeo told other senior Trump administration officials that too much information was coming out regarding the covert source known as an asset. An extraction or exfiltration, as such an operation is referred to by intelligence officials, is an extraordinary remedy when U.S. intelligence believes an asset is in immediate danger. Immediate danger. A U.S. official said...
Well, no telling what Trump's going to tell.
A U.S. official said before the secret operation, there was media speculation about the existence of such a covert source and such coverage or public speculation poses risk to the safety of anyone and a foreign government suspects may be involved. This official did not identify any public reporting to that effect at the time of his decision, and CNN could not find any related reference in media reports. Asked for comment, Brittany Bramell, a CIA director of public affairs, told CNN, quote, CNN's narrative that the Central Intelligence Agency makes life or death decisions based on anything other than objective analysis and sound collection is simply false. Misguided speculation that the president's handling of our nation's most sensitive intelligence, which he has access to each and every day,
isn't that part scary?
Drove an alleged exfiltration operation is inaccurate. A spokesperson for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo declined to comment. White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham said, quote, CNN's reporting is not only incorrect, it has the potential to put lives in danger.
Unlike Trump, with his daily briefings and his preponderance to loose lips with Russians in the Oval Office.
So the CIA
That's all confidence inspiring, right?
Right. So the CIA says that it is inaccurate, this thought process that it was Trump's loose lips is what, caused this.
Well, didn't we see reporting earlier today? Effectively, Wilbur Ross, the cabinet secretary, threatened senior officials at the NOAA with a purge if they contradicted the boss.
Yes.
Now, somebody right now currently is contradicting the boss.
In the CIA. I mean, I'm sorry, not in the CIA. In his administration, according to CNN. Now, they have multiple sources who are not named, right? But at least there's more than one saying that this is what occurred. And, of course, the CIA is essentially denying that, or at least stating that the speculation that the president's handling of the secret information drove the exfiltration operation. They say that's inaccurate.
No, it was Don Jr. It was Ivanka. It was Jared. It was one of the so bright Trump legacy. Or it was Dad.
And we know, we were talking about this when it happened. And they were just yucking it up, right? They had a great old time in the White House. And in fact, I think those pictures came from the Russian news sources because we didn't get those pictures.
That's how we found out.
Yes, that's how we found out.
And I also recall, I got to think that Massoud was less than happy to have their sources compromised by this very same president. The one that we should have no fear, who gets the daily briefings and then, breaks confidences to foreign leaders of hostile nations. Let's call it Russia.
But I think that's the continued danger. If, and again, we have multiple contradictory stories here. But I have no doubt that Trump has no filter, and I don't believe that he has our country's best interests in mind. And remember, he was trying to build a Trump Tower in Moscow.
Well, he told us all about that, Dom. They were done with that by January of the election year.
No.
Well, I know it was because that's what Michael Cohen told the Congress.
Yeah. Also inaccurately, incorrectly. And Trump, when he came out and said, I believe in front of the chopper one time, I had a deal in Russia, everybody knew about it. Well, of course, that was not true. The slow roll of this information that continues to come out. And I ask my Republican friends, if you knew that Donald Trump was trying to build a tower and he was going to give this, the penthouse suite, the $50 million suite, the cherry on top or whatever, I'm sorry, I don't know what the price was, but it was expensive. If he was going to dedicate that to Putin as part of sealing the deal and trying to get funding from a bank that is under scrutiny by this country that you're not supposed to get money from. This whole thing continues. It continues. We need to get resolution to this. And every day that this man, as the CIA Director of Public Affairs, tells us, he has access to this information every single day. He's dangerous and he puts people in danger.
Even today.
Today, right now. He will do it again tomorrow, and he'll do it again the next day. It will not stop.
Didn't the George W. Bush administration out a CIA operative in Valerie Plame.
Isn't she running for office now? I saw the headline.
She's running for Congress.
Well, I mean, it's politics, man. You know, in politics, everything's fair game.
Well, Joe Wilson, her husband, contradicted the Bush administration, and therefore, you know, there had to be a price to pay. And if that put her life or others that she worked with, or perhaps the cover agency that they use, because, you know, before you can have spies, you got to have a job for them, or at least a cover job for them. So what if the Bush administration put lots of CIA assets in danger? The good news is we'll never know how many of them ended up dead. Kind of like this circumstance. We won't know. And if it doesn't make it on the front page of the crooked New York Times, Dom, then you'll never know. Come back with us. One short segment for your phone calls, your reactions, your opinions, your whatever at 844-967-2789. Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
No, I didn't. Honest. I ran out of gas. I had a flat tire. I didn't have enough money for cab fare. My tux didn't come back from the cleaners. An old friend came in from out of town. Someone stole my car. There was an earthquake. A terrible flood. Locust. It wasn't my fault, I swear to God!
Hey, Milwaukee, you now get more Earl Ingram in the morning. Tune into the Earl Ingram Show now from 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays and noon to 2 Saturdays on WRD 1510 a.m. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420-2020 cruise from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. We begin in the City of Angels with the Devil's Advocates reception on April 17th, departing the next day for a 7-night cruise with stops in Cabo San Lucas, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta, Mexico on board a shiny new Carnival Panorama cruise ship.
Expedia prices local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill, bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, last segment of the day. So if you got something to say, please pick up the phone right now and dial 844-967-2789. Now!
Right now?
Do it now!
What do you got for him, Dom? You want to talk about the Democrat, the front runner, Uncle Joe Biden.
The Hill piece, Crudy, Joe Biden lying about Iraq shows why our nation has so many wars.
I believe that is a Jonathan Turley piece.
An opinion contributor, and he's a conservative? How would you describe him?
He used to be on Keith Oberlin, or whatever that guy's name is, quite a bit on MSNBC once upon a time. He is a law school professor at George Washington University. And when he was rapping on the, the Bush administration, I liked a lot of what he had to say. Subsequent to that, there have been times where he hasn't come out defensively on behalf of Trump, but sort of legally he stated things that would, aid Trump if they were upheld by the courts. But no, I don't think he's a conservative. I think he perceives himself as sort of a voice of, legal good governance.
Former French President Charles de Gaulle once said, since a politician never believes what he says, he is quite surprised to be taken at his word. Turley writes, this week, no one is more surprised than President Donald Trump and Democratic presidential candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden. Trump has succeeded in turning an innocent mistake about weather into a giant lie, and then, after days of determined effort, into a full-fledged scandal. Biden succeeded in denying his own words in support of the Iraq war. Falsely describing the path of a hurricane can be a serious matter if not corrected. However, lying about hurricanes does not cause more hurricanes. Lying about wars is one reason we have so many of them. Tragically, American voters are used to politicians avoiding responsibility for their embarrassing or costly errors, yet Trump has taken that tendency to a truly pathological level with the debacle over Hurricane Dorian. He incorrectly said that Alabama was in its path. Instead of simply correcting his mistake, he dug in deeper to avoid admitting it, producing a map with a juvenile alteration made with a Sharpie to make Hurricane Dorian appear bound for Alabama. As ridicule mounted, he refused to drop the matter and continued to tweet for days about Alabama being in the path. Now the Washington Post reports that White House advisors confirm Trump made the alteration to the map, which is something he has denied. The controversy expanded to the point that Merriam-Webster dictionary tweeted the name of Mumpsismus, or a stubborn person who insists on making an error in spite of being shown that it is wrong. Voters can easily conclude that all politicians are these, or some more than others, but this ignores the gravity of lying about certain subjects such as war. Both Republicans and Democrats have long lied about wars. The framers knew politicians would often take the nation into wars for stupid or short-sighted reasons. They also knew few politicians would own up to their roles in costly wars. For that reason, under Article 1 of the Constitution, the framers expressly required declaration of war from Congress before politicians could send sons and daughters off to war, possibly to die. They would have to do so with binding clarity. During the Pennsylvania Ratification Convention, James Wilson explained the need for approval from Congress as a guarantee that no one will hurry us into war. It is calculated to guard against it. Politicians are not very big on personal responsibility, of course, or at least not in their own conduct. For that reason, nearly all of our wars have been undeclared, and, as the framers expected, politicians repeatedly misrepresent their roles. Democratic candidate John Kerry gave perhaps the most mind-numbing example of this. During the primary in 2004, Kerry portrayed himself as against the Iraq War, even though he voted for it. Then, in the general election against President Bush, he pivoted when asked about his vote against spending $7 billion in Afghanistan. Hillary Clinton engaged in the same kind of historical revisionism on war. She was a reliable hawk on military interventions, including the disastrous intervention in Libya, without even a resolution, and regarding Iraq, she jumped on the popular bandwagon for war. When it became less popular, however, she claimed to have been misled, even though she and her colleagues ignored those of us opposing the original war resolution. Ultimately, that war would claim an estimated 4,500 Americans and another 47,500 Americans wounded. It would cost our country more than $1 trillion. It initially was popular to send our troops to war, and when it eventually became unpopular, politicians simply denied responsibility. This is why lying about wars is not just another spin by the shameless. People died because Republican and Democratic leaders did not have the courage to stand against the drum roll of war. In the case of Biden, he attempted to take a Sharpie to the entire war and black out his name, insisting that he had voted to invade Iraq before, quote, immediately opposing it because he said he had been misled. He claimed that Bush looked him in the eye in the Oval Office. He said he needed the vote to be able to get inspectors into Iraq to determine whether or not Saddam Hussein was engaged in dealing with nuclear program. He got them, and before you know it, we had shock and awe. The Bush administration denies such an exchange ever occurred. More importantly, Biden said that he supported the war and continued to do so while it was popular. Now, he insists, quote, that moment it started. I came out against the war that moment, unquote. Biden is repeatedly shown on videotape supporting the war. He said before the invasion that it was important for the United States not to stop with covert action if that failed, but to move to overwhelming overt action because we cannot afford to miss. Then, months after the invasion, Biden said in a television interview, I, for one, thought we should have gone in Iraq. Still later, he said at a hearing, I voted to go into Iraq, and I would vote to do it again. Even after this, Biden expressly said that we have always known about the war in Iraq, namely the troops, quote, would have to stay there in large numbers for a long period of time. He stated publicly after the invasion that contrary to what some in my party might think, Iraq was a problem that had to be dealt with sooner rather than later. So I commend the president. He was right to enforce the solemn commitments made by Saddam. If they were not enforced, what good would they be? It should not be a surprise that politicians who vote casually to send others to war would not be particularly troubled about denying their own responsibility in such decisions. The problem is that undeclared wars often are not just measured by the lies, but also by the lives left behind. Jonathan Turley is the Shapiro Professor of Public Interest Law at George Washington University.
Real quick, Dom, I got one more topic for the day. Just wanted you to check. Do we got callers? We got a caller. Let's take at least one more caller today.
Joe from Madison, you are up. Thanks for calling, Joe. What do you got?
Hey, Joe.
Well, I'm circling back to another subject that you were just on, and that was the Wilbur Ross threatening to fire people at the in NOAA. And I'm curious about this because you guys had talked about, well, if the boss isn't happy with the job, out the door you go. But they described this on the Hill. There's an article on the Hill that says that the union chief at NOAA, and there's apparently a union that's in order there. It's called the National Weather Service Employees Organization. Represents thousands of employees working under NOAA. So I'm wondering about how that might go, if how the union might react in a situation like that, where it's people are, in terms of work rules, you basically are asking your people to lie. How does that, do you think that could be as easily solved with, there's the door, don't let it hit you on the way out, if you've got a union backing you?
Well, you would hope not. I'm not clear what sort of protections they would have. The reported allegation is that the threat was made. There was an effort to chill in a prior way the quote-unquote free speech of governmental employees. Now, whether or not they would have had the legal capacity to carry through on those firings, and whether or not the union would have had the right to go stand with their brothers or sisters, one would hope so. Greater point, I guess, I took away, Joe, is you got the Commerce Secretary threatening people. And of course, whether or not it's carried through, the idea is to shut you up.
Yeah, and it's happening with people who are I was thinking about that. These are people, if you're the kind of person that's following hurricanes and tornadoes, you're the sort of person that is not necessarily committed to a 40-hour-a-week job. You're working till 2 in the morning, and night and day when something big is happening. I would imagine there's a lot of really burned feelings over that kind of dedication that they would have to that sort of job and being treated in such a fashion, don't you think?
Yeah, but they probably believe in climate change, and that's a good reason to get rid of all of them.
That's a big mistake.
Hey, Joe, really appreciate you listening and the call. I got one more quick one before the end of this show, if there's time. You remember Valerie Plame? We were talking about her.
Yes.
Her new campaign ad. She does some fancy CIA stunt driving. She apparently launched a campaign ad today. Former CIA operative Valerie Plame released an ad resembling a movie trailer on Monday, making the case to New Mexico voters why she's running for Congress as she drives a Chevy Camaro backwards. I understand even Car and Driver posted this video. It's some fancy driving, Dom.
Oh, she's good, huh?
Well beyond your capabilities.
Are you kidding me? Have you seen? I used to work on a farm, dude.
Yeah, that qualifies you for like nothing but grousing about the fact you used to work on a farm. It doesn't make you
parked
good
a
at
van in
driving
a trailer
backwards.
once.
You parallel parked a van in the trailer? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're CIA worthy, my friend.
Exactly.
I'd out you both. Thank you all for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Joe Costa-Zamaripa is next. And a quick announcement. Tomorrow in Madison, tune in, 8 o'clock a.m. Stephanie Miller's back. You're welcome.
Impeachment is about restoring honor and integrity to the office.
You've got a dirty, whorish mouth.
Milwaukee County is facing transit route cuts and workers are being asked for concessions. Yet, a national economist reviewed Milwaukee County's financials. It showed they over-budget transit expenses by $16.5 million in 2018 alone and almost $40 million since 2015. The workers never saw that money, but were squeezed for concessions. I'm Michael Bouts, Vice President of Augmented Transit Union Local 998. I was in those negotiations. County Executive Chris Abley claims a budget crisis, asking us to give in while the CAFR report shows we ran under budget for years. Abley inflated the cost, diverted the taxpayers' money, while imposing real cuts to vital service. Enough is enough. Call Chris Abley at 414-278-4338 and ask him, if not to improve transit service, where did that money go?
This message paid for by ATU Local 998.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Impeachment move, Taliban talks. I'm Ann Cates. The House will take a step toward impeachment proceedings this week.
A majority of House Democrats support impeachment, though Speaker Nancy Pelosi remains opposed to such a move. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler says his committee will vote Thursday on a number of procedures for any impeachment hearing. They include allowing committee staffs equal time to question witnesses once lawmakers are finished, and allowing the President's counsel to respond to any information or testimony that's presented. Jerry Bodlander, Washington.
President Trump is being chastised by lawmakers on both sides of the aisle after he canceled secret peace talks with the Taliban to be held in the U.S.
The criticism from some Republicans stems from what they say is a terrorist organization that doesn't recognize nation states and that kills innocent women and children being invited to Camp David. Democrats also raising concerns over the talks and over the fact that the meetings would have happened around the 18th anniversary of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Camila Bernal, Washington.
70,000 people are homeless in the Bahamas in the wake of Hurricane Dorian, which also battered North Carolina. Governor Roy Cooper says the storm killed several residents.
We've had 3 deaths in North Carolina related to the storm. 2 of them were people who fell off ladders while they were trying to get their house boarded up in the storm. And the other death happened post-storm with a chainsaw accident with cleanup. We still have about 3,500 people without power.
Coast Guard rescuers have pulled to safety a 4th crew member trapped in a ship that capsized off the coast of Georgia. The 4, who had initially been reported as missing, are said to be in relatively good shape and were taken to a hospital for further evaluation. The mission will now focus on cleanup. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 38 points, the S&P down a fraction, the Nasdaq off 16. I'm Ann Cates.
We the people, the hardworking 99% of men and women, only have a voice when we join together as one and amplify our message. Now is the time for all Wisconsinites to join We the People and raise our voices. Do you feel like you are wasting your money funding unaccountable consultants, unresponsive candidates, and their campaigns? Help us do something that really matters. Please join We the People. Give what you can so we can support progressive radio stations like this one, using the public airwaves to educate Wisconsin about what we the people want for our state and remind Wisconsin's politicians that they work for us. Your donations to We the People at p4ppc.org, a registered, compliant IRS 501c3, will always be tax deductible, will always remain anonymous, and We the People pledge to spend 100% of donations educating Wisconsin on the issues our donors want discussed, giving individuals a voice in the collective message of We the People. Please give today at p4ppc.org. That's p4ppc.org. We the people need you.
Federal regulators are warning a vaping company over its safety claims.
The Food and Drug Administration is ordering Juul to stop making unproven claims for its products. Federal law requires companies to show scientific evidence before marketing tobacco products as a better option, and the company has advertised its vaping products as being safer alternatives to cigarettes. Juul has 15 days to comply with the law. The warning coming as more deaths are being reported among a rising number of lung disease cases in the U.S. that could be tied to vaping. There have been 5 vaping-related deaths, and the increase in teen use continues continues to raise concerns from medical experts. Joe Ramsey, Washington.
Turner Classic Movies has hired its first African-American host, naming film academic Jacqueline Stewart host of its silent movie program, Silent Sunday Nights. Stewart is a cinema and media studies professor at the University of Chicago who specializes in the racial politics of film preservation. She'll make her TCM debut on Sunday. I'm Ann Cates.
What does it cost?
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. We've officially moved into our new space off Pleasant View Road in Middleton, and we're excited to announce that Madison Liquidators is now Dane County's premier dealer for Groupe Lacoste. In addition to their unbeatable 25-year warranty, Groupe Lacoste has 10 lines to choose from, ranging from traditional to ultra-modern, all